This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get full!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome to brilliant racing action. Once again, a short turnaround week was one which a lot of people were thinking about, were looking at and going, this is going to be a really tough challenge for these drivers, especially when we're in championship season, especially when we're on a really big push towards the end. And now is the time where maybe if you're out of the championship hunt, you take a step back, you refocus for 2021, but the back end of 2020 is going to be a tough order for those to race. It's the second of the driver's choice rounds. The choice, well, it's a favourite of Europe. It is the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and it's here brought to you by the Virtual Racing School for your V8SCOPS 2020 season. The two Easy Finance Spa Super Sprints coming up to you, brought to you by the Oceanic Sim Racing crew, Motum Simulations, and of course SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network. My name's Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Mr. Reese Gardner, the Southport racer, as per usual. And well, Southerney Portano, it seems like we have ourselves some brilliant racing action that's going to be going out here today. But before we get to any of this amazingly illustrious circuit, we have to talk Super Split and 2.
We certainly do. G'day everyone. Good to see you all back here after a great round last weekend at Belle Isle. Now we're at the complete opposite track, a nice wide open European road racing venue. But Split 2, of course, is the first race coming up. We have got a 17 lap race in this Super Split 2 session. And in terms of pit stop requirements, the drivers are going to have to make one pit stop. 50% fuel tank restriction. We're expecting about 90 to 95 litres to complete the whole race distance, and the fuel burn here is massive at well over 5 litres a lap. So the drivers do have to be careful about how they go about the application of their right foot.
They certainly will here today, and this is going to be a circuit which I think for many a driver is one which they will be looking at and thinking either it will make for racing or it will break for racing. And hopefully for those who want this result to go in their favour, they want this to be more of a make race than it would do a break race around this place. But for those who are also searching for one magical run today, they're going to be looking for the longest night in all of racing action here. Reese, you've got yourself this Super Split 2 event that comes up. The winner, of course, is given magical entry, golden ticket opportunities to move on to your main event, your Super Splits of the night. And those sprints, those 2 extra races are going to be so very tough to be worked on here in terms of finding yourself that consistency, working out what the track's doing from time to time. And as we just look at how this place is going right now, it's a cold start for those in Super Split 2. It's only 18 degrees. It's about 8:30 in the morning here in terms of in-sim time, which is not too far away from about the 7:05 that I find myself with 1 hour sleep right now. So this is going to be a very, very cold track, and one that's going to take a little bit of time to get adjusted to.
Indeed, the track temperature at the moment just 18 degrees Celsius, and as you can see, it is very grey and gloomy out there as Kurt Stedman fires his way up the Eau Rouge Radillon complex, and that is an incredibly difficult corner in these cars. They don't have anywhere near the amount of downforce that your GTs and your open wheelers have, so it takes an awful lot of effort to wheel it around a circuit like this. The tyres do have a bit of trouble coming up to temperature around this circuit in these conditions, but the corners are long and the corners are fast. Plenty of opportunity to build up that temperature. This is where the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is in relation to the locations around it in Europe. It's in the beautiful Ardennes forests in the south of Belgium, the Liège region, and the people around here certainly love their circuit. It's a draw for racing around the world, and since 2007, this circuit has been in this configuration, but it's actually been around since 1920. Started out as public roads, and actually from Cobb Paul Frere, turn 16, up to turns 7 and 8 at Le Combe, that still used to be public roads until about the mid-2000s. So it hasn't been very long in this circuit's history that it's been a completely closed-off permanent venue.
Exactly, and I think it's going to be very, very clear in terms of how this circuit has grown and developed, that this is the true multi-purpose race circuit, which every track, I think, around the world loves to hope to be at some stage in time. If you ever had an idol growing up in terms of the racetrack lineage, every track would look up to this as that older brother or that older cousin, which you look at and go, goodness, that guy's cool. I want to be like him one day. And that's exactly what Spa-Francorchamps wants to be. Had a quote-unquote rough, I would say, childhood to teens in terms of how this circuit came to be, with the former layout of the Master Kink. We're about 8.5 minutes away from taking ourselves over to the starting grid for racing proceedings as we look at the United Sim Sports 027 of Jamie McKnight. But what we've seen is that, like a fine wine, this track has really matured into something that I think every fan of racing thinks that this is a track of success.
Yeah, indeed. Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is easily my favourite circuit outside of Bathurst, of course. I am Australian, so by law, Mount Panorama has to be my favourite track. But Spa is a very, very close second. You've got the iconic run up to La Source, the first turn, the hairpin, then down into the dip of Eau Rouge, and then up Radillon as we jump on board with Mitchell McLeod. He's just gone to P3 in this session. It's a great demonstration of what this circuit is like, and you see that run up to the hill. The track just almost goes vertical, and as you go through this left-hand kink, you're almost driving into the hill. The compression goes through the tires. You can't really feel it in the sim like you can in real life, but it's still a super challenge, and it's all about your run down the Kemmel Straight here, where the cars reach their highest speed. Right up here at Le Combe is going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities on this circuit. It's a medium speed chicane. You can use a lot of the curbs through here, but it is a very heavy braking zone, and if you want to try and get past, well, you have to do it there, because from here on in, you don't have many opportunities to get on by, because it's one fast flowing corner after another. That said, the drivers here are brave.
They certainly are, and I will have to correct myself from what I've been saying earlier on. Of course, it's about 7:10 in the morning, and it's very easy to misread a couple things here and there. We are going for 250 Ks in the main event racing tonight. Just the one race available, but it's double the distance of super sprints that we are seeing as we take a little look at the 010, the 010 of Craig Ansmatch, and the tanked SRT machine, looking absolutely fabulous as always, with that slightly different livery that they've got going on, but it's a wave of, I would say, colours to try and work the eyes around at this stage. It's almost like looking, say, deep down into the seas and seeing how an octopus changes colours with the surroundings. It's sort of that level of colour that we really see. Here is the quickest driver so far in the session, Bailey Frid for Mark 1 Esports in the 333 car right now, having a pretty good run here in practice, all things considered. 2:19.3, the best time on the board so far, and it was about this time 1 year ago that questions were being asked about where was the series going to go next, with the likes of brand new vehicles being put up onto the horizon, and that was something that, of course, really did energize the final round of the championship at Road America. So this is also a place where it's worth noting here, Reese, this is the last drop round available. If things go wrong here, this is the last chance you have to say, no, everything's going to be all right. We'll give you a cuddle, we'll give you a nice shiny medal, and we'll effectively stop the count, as it were, and give yourself a very, very good opportunity to maybe have one better opportunity when it comes to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the traditional curtain closer.
Yeah, exactly. The final round cannot be used as a drop round, so the drivers are going to have to be extra careful around here. Of course, there's plenty of pitfalls around Spa, not least the track limits. As you can see, as Bailey Fred comes up to the end of the lap, there's plenty of tarmac runoff around here, especially at the exit of Blanchimont, right there. And the off-track 1X is always hanging over your head like a storm cloud here at Spa. So the drivers have to be careful that they don't get too many incident points, otherwise that may likely be an infraction on their license with Oceanic Sim Racing. That's another reason why they've got to be very careful here today. But once again, this is the business end of the championship, and the drivers that are in contention know exactly what they got to do.
They certainly do, and of course, it's worth noting that this track, in terms of iRacing at least, used to be a little bit more meaner, a little bit more fiercer with its off-track incidents, so slightly relaxed from where it was, but we haven't seen any real movements in those off-track incident points in the last 2 years or so. So that's going to be worth just keeping in mind here for some of the better battling that we have going on right now. So who's going to try and make everything work out to get things going on? Well, we'll certainly find out in terms of this. But for the time being anyway, we are not a million miles away. Race control being run today by Michael Korolev, Simon Black and Nick Parker. And as is tradition in this series, it's about 3 minutes out here that we get a little bit of a briefing from one Mr. Simon Black, the last little understanding of how everything's going to be working around this circuit as we look at another perennial member of the SCOPS team working hard to make things happen. Henry King in the ANZ Motorsports car, currently P15 on the board. But really what you get here is, okay, final briefing. This is how everything's going to go around this place today. And effectively, you play by the rules with us and we'll play nice with you.
Yeah, exactly. The race control and the involvement that race control has in running SCOPS has always been an integral part of this series, and they go through the motions every single race and are ready to bring out the safety car at any opportunity. Though, as we've seen earlier on in the season, they can be picky occasionally as to when they deploy it. Brief modem simulation replay of Henry King here. And big oversteer moment out of the Brazil corner. That's one of the places where you got to be careful with your throttle application. What a great shot that is. And he kept it within track limits too to boot. Excellent stuff.
I think we need to create a new term and allow that to be put into the Oxford English Dictionary. That is called shaning, because that was how Shane van Gisbergen absolutely loves to expression session from time to time through a couple of corners. That was a drifting masterclass by Henry King, who loves to drift in a Pro 2 and Pro 4 truck when he gets any real opportunity, and he was shaning his way through quite a few corners there on the back end of the circuit.
That he was, and let's see if he shanes it out of the bus stop chicane too. Oh, yeah, he does have a go. Mr. King across the line. And, of course, that's not going to be a lap time because that is an out lap for him with 1 minute 20 in the session to go. Oh, he's backing it into La Source as well. Truly is an expression session here for Henry.
Certainly is. As we take a look at a couple of other drivers who will be hoping that they find the times that are available. There's the 134 of Matthew Brunt, looking to try and get a good time on the board here today, and hopefully we'll have a good race in terms of this one as we take a little focus on how this race is going to go. It's a 17 lap event here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps here in Super Split 2. One pit stop required. Of course, there'll be fuel tank restricted down in terms of how much fuel they're able to put into the vehicle. Only 50% of the tank is effectively allowed, and so this is going to be a very interesting battle. If you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow SimSpeed TV any which way you can. You can go like us on Facebook. You can go over to Twitter. You can even go to our YouTube channel where you can find so many amazing races that go on from us at SimSpeed TV. And a lot of racing action is going to be coming up for you very, very soon on that front. But the timer here is starting to expire in this practice session, I should say. And we're going to be taking ourselves over towards the starting grid for how things are going to line up. So in the next couple of moments, we are going to be taking a small little look at where everything is going to be lining up, and they can see the scan date there, Spa Function 2010, the modeling that we have seen here, getting all of this ready. So pole position then for Bailey Frid. There has been a team change. I'm just hearing in from a couple of people behind the scenes, with Jamie McKnight alongside him on the front row, with Craig Anspach and Josh Morris on the second row. Craig Jones will start from 5th, with Vincent Skilbeck in 6th position for the Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic team. Kurt Stenberger, surprised to see in split 2. He's normally a perennial top split driver. He starts 7th with Sebastian Flock in the 8th position. Grant Keynes will go from 9th place, and in the triple four, it's Jet Bennett rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, Bailey Frid there on pole position, moving to Pursuit Sim Racing from Mach 1. Interesting to see what he'll do from there. It's Simon Mazzomo and Matthew Brunt who share the 6th row of the grid. Michael Spithill for Redback in lucky 13th, alongside Stuart Crawford for 111. Mitchell McLeod for Talking starts the number 40 from 15th, with Shane Evans alongside him. And the field is rounded out by Daniel Hetterscheid and our Expression Session Master, Henry King.
Well, we'll see how this one will all play out as we take a look at these track conditions. It is frigid cold, I think is the right way to say it at this moment in time. Winds coming in then from the south at about 5 miles an hour. Not really too much to worry about then in terms of that front. But race distance then, 118 Ks worth of action here, and of course we're sitting with these cameras at the fabled Eau Rouge and Radion section of place of track, which I think is the right way to call it, Reese. Had scared the heebie-jeebies out of many a driver many a time.
It certainly has. I mean, as the drivers line up on the grid here, obviously they can't see it, but once they round that hairpin to La Source, that is when it strikes the fear into you. Even on the sim, it is a daunting corner, and I think if they don't sort themselves out on the run up to the corner, we might see a bit of contact through that section. Very high speed corner, and these cars not producing much downforce, 1.5 tons and 650 horsepower, as I say, pretty much every single round. It informs everything.
18 Holdens and Mustangs will be taking the run and looking to try and make everything happen. They'll be searching for one golden ticket. Who will book their place with the other 40 drivers, hoping for their big result? Well, the only place you can catch that is right here and right now. So, who has what it takes to put themselves up at the very, very front, can just keep the car nice and smooth, nice and consistent around here today, and make something happen? That run to the La Source hairpin, it's not very long, but there is certainly a lot of places you can get overtakes done here today. We watch with bated breath. 17 laps worth of action here has started, and it's a pretty good start then from Kurt Stenberger's. A lot of drivers that go through. That's one driver struggling, but look at that around the outside. McKnight trying to fight this one into the La Source hairpin for the first time. It's a good run from Josh Morris as well. He's standing inside, and that's Jet Bennett going for an oopsie-daisy in the background there. So Bennett getting it all shades of wrong. He'll roll back and try and flick spin it around, but up Eau Rouge and Radion for the first time. Frid's got the run, but it's all about draft through this section as they fire away on up the hill and search for a little bit of battleground, as here comes James McKnight to the outside.
That he does, and he's got a great run down that straight. He's cleared Bailey Frid before they get to the braking zone, but Frid's going to pressure him into Lacombe. McKnight gives him space, but he's gone a bit too deep, and Frid goes around the outside. McKnight then has to cover from the advances of Josh Morris and Craig Anspach behind. Anspach going wide. Morris's exit compromised slightly as Stenberg now tries to find his way through down at Bruxelles. And for reference, the car slow off the grid was Craig Jones. It hasn't hurt him a huge amount. He's still managing to keep himself up there. Have a look at Stenny round the outside and exceeding track limits to get the move done, but there we go. It's done on Craig Anspach, and it looks like the others are trying to find a way past him quick sharp.
All's fair play in love and war as they go on through. This is Vincent Skilbeck now trying to search for a way down the inside at Fania. It's not a traditional place where you get moves done. sort of locking there, and wide goes Anspach. You'll have the inside for the next corner. Jones wants in as well on the outside in the 111 Chrome car, and I think that's one down the inside, and yes it is, position made again. So Anspach is looking more Cabbage Patch at this moment. He's going straight one direction. That is backwards as Sebastian Flock wants to try and get on through as well. You look as well, Simon Mazzomo in the TechSense Fit car. He'll definitely want to be gaining some places.
Yeah, it looks like he's about to get one done on Mitchell McLeod there on the run up to Blanchimont. McLeod has a bit of a look up the inside, but there's no way you can get past at that corner. And just on the first lap with cold tyres, they're taking a bit of liberty with the exit there. And have a look at Mazzomo up the inside. Let's see if he can get it done. No, whoa, hang on a minute. There we go. That is Sebastian Flock spinning on the exit of the bus stop chicane. Very easy to do at those slow speeds. Meanwhile, McKnight is pressuring Bailey Frid up into turn one. He had a bit of a lock up at Fagnier himself on the last lap, but now it is on for the lead of the race.
Once again, it is the top four then. Frid, McKnight, Morris and Stenberg. The way that they run up the hill and look to try and get themselves settled into a rhythm here and working out, okay, where is it that they need to be and what is it that they need to do. They don't get DRS in this series, of course, but the marker board's there for the McLaren MP430s, which had a good race last night as things went forward. But into Lake Coombe, no real opportunities to go out there and attack and make those places initially, but of course there is still time as we take a look at the 6-gear imagery sponsored car. Let's take a motor simulation replay though of that start, and what was very key was that some drivers bogged down for the start. I know that Brunt really struggled, but Jet Bennett here getting himself in a very sticky wicket.
Yes, indeed, and we'll see if that might have been a bit distracting. Technical issues for the number 84. Let's see what happened to him on the run up to the turn. It was great scattering from the field up into the braking zone, but Bennett goes on in and then just gets tapped by the redback car and gets sent around. It's very difficult to try and find your way through that maze. Looks like it was Michael Spithill. Let's see if he comes under a fire from race control for that.
I'd like another look at that because I don't think there was really much contact at all. It looked like the cold tyres, full lock as you go through a corner, and the vehicle just picked itself up onto two tyres as it tends to do on the cold tyres, and effectively very nearly was an up and over and not how you like it from Jet Bennett. So we'll take another little look at this one then on the Motum Simulation replay, and let's go on board then with the Redback Racing Team car hopefully and see if there was any contact and how that one went about. So this is Michael Spithill's view of the race start. You can see he's a little slow to react off the line, but he gets a nice good boot of acceleration, which does all right. There you can see Bennett there, front left, front and centre. You can see on the brakes he goes into the opening corner, and you can see there is no contact at all. It just picks up on the wheels with full lock through the corner.
Yeah, righto. That's quite interesting. So I think Michael Spithill will be blameless in that one. At least that's how it looks from our point of view, but race control might have a different opinion of that. We shall see. Oh, bit of a mistake for Spithill into La Source as we see Stuart Crawford is the first car onto pit road. In terms of pit strategy, yeah, very early. I'd expect the first pit stops to be happening around lap 6, lap 7 with the fuel tank restriction we have.
Well, here is Mitch McLeod in the Torque Inc. car looking to chase down Simon Mazzomo. Now, Mitch McLeod, all the way back in a bygone era of sim racing, we're talking about around 2011 or so, was the nearest challenger to the championship leader at this stage, which is Madison Downs. So, where Madison Downs has been able to keep at the top, maybe Mitch McLeod has been a little bit more carefree, but there's something quite carefree about that move actually down the inside at Bruxelles. And Simon Mazzomo, who of course last season was driving the safety car, right now he really likes some flashing lights right now to try and get on by and neutralise the field.
Yes, indeed, but looks like McLeod has put his foot down now and will try his best to gap Mazzomo as well as Grant Caines, who has joined that battle and is right on the back of the Fitzstye Commodore. So McLeod down into Fagnier then, bit of a wide entry as there's a lockup from Craig Anspach just up ahead for the lead though. Oh, hang on a minute, that was quite an early switch over there from the Mustang of Josh Morris as he's pursued by Kurt Stenberg. I don't know if that was a slowdown. You don't really get a slowdown in that part of the circuit. Maybe he was just switching over nice and early. Either way, Stenberger's putting him under a lot of pressure down this very flat-out section.
And as well, Vincent Skilbeck jumping onto the back as well. So that's not going to be the most ideal scenario in the world, as that group of 2 and the group of 3 is becoming a group of 5 on the brakes up the hill through that final chicane. Such a difficult place to get things going. It is off camber through the second part as well, which really is awkward, but really we are seeing Packstar Racing, nobody able to break away. That's a little look to the inside from Stenberg. He's late in on the brakes, but can he pick it up off of the exit? No, he can and not, because that is all about Josh Morris having an open steering through that section and being very, very alert and open to the Kurt Stenberg dive.
Yeah, also La Source being a very wide corner for a hairpin, so you do get to hold your way around the outside. Oh, Craig Jones there having a bit of trouble in his new privateer full-on chrome car, just running wide at the top of the hill. Very easy to do because the car gets very unstable over the crest and over the bumps as you ride over those curbs, but it doesn't seem to have hurt him too much once again. He's right on the back of Skilbeck, who we have not seen since Interlagos, where he finished 23rd.
I'll tell you what, Craig Jones' car looks like when Squidward goes back in SpongeBob SquarePants to about, or goes forward, sorry, to about 3000 AD, where everything is made of chrome.
Yes, I think trying to bring that future retro look back a bit is Craig Jones, or maybe he's taken some inspiration from the Silver Arrows. At least they were silver until the start of this year, still putting the pressure on Vincent Skilbeck. It's not going to be a move into Farnier. It's a very fast entry to this corner, but you see a little bit of a mistake from Skilbeck. He ran a bit wide of the curb, so Craig Jones starting to smell blood. As I noticed, Kurt Stenberg had a bit of an oversteer moment up ahead. Craig Jones himself having an oversteer moment too.
So oversteer moments then as they try and adjust to a track which will be trying to warm up the longer that this race goes on. You can see that through these drivers pushing the very, very limit of what this track has to offer. Bailey Frid, though, has led every lap of this one so far, but the top 6 here, all split by just 2.7 seconds at the moment. Nobody really able to break away. You get these 2 long straights, inverted commas. Of course, the run from Curva Paul Frere all the way over is very tough, and they can see just how much rotation they have to put in through each section of the road, and as they go over the stripe once again to score another lap then in the books, this is going to be a very, very tall order to try and work this one out between them. You feel like this is what you get, say, in a Grand National event when you're watching horse racing, where the pack stays with each other very close early on, and you're not going to find out till later when one horse is bolted from the stable.
Indeed, Josh Morris is currently the fastest car in the top 5, set a 2-minute 20.432 on the last lap. That's 0.3 faster than Jamie McKnight, who is about to pass. McKnight looking at going defensive into Lacombe, but Morris was flummoxed a little bit there by McKnight. No opportunity to get past on that occasion, but McKnight's gone too deep into Lacombe once again. That's going to leave him open to an opportunity from Morris if those tyres don't come back down to temperature shortly.
Keep an eye out on Skilbeck. He's dropping down the timing order now and has dropped a couple of places. I think he went straight on there at Lacoum, which would not have been ideal for the Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic car, as he now falls behind Craig Anspach. So we'll take a look, brought to you by Motum Simulations. He has a very good run. He was in 5th place at the time, battling it out with Craig Jones in the future car, I think it's the right way to say it right now. As we take a look at this one on the brakes, we'll take it from aerial coverage on the brakes, and back steps out under braking, locking up the rear axle. Now, how easy is that to do in a vehicle with a locked rear diff?
Very easy. Of course, these cars have no modifications available to the differential. As we take a look at Michael Spithill, something happened to him as well. But once the rear tyres lock under brakes, you're pretty much done, because once again, for Michael Spithill, it happens under acceleration as well. If you get a bit unsettled over the bumps, then the rear axle, both wheels spinning at the exact same speed, very difficult to recover a slide in that situation.
exit stage right for Michael Spithill then after that little bit of a moment, which is not quite the ideal here in this one. So Simon Mazzomo, 9th place. Grant Kane's just behind here in terms of these drivers trying to figure everything out as they go through the final couple of corners and go on to start lap 6. This is when we're expecting the pit stop window really to be open at any point. If anyone feels confident enough to go down in, get a fresh set of tyres and get back out again, this might just be the time. But you also have to remember as well that last time out at Belle Isle, it was an overcut that pretty much picked up the strategy card for one Mr. Madison down. It might be something very similar here today, but keep an eye at the front of the field as well as we keep an eye out on Anspach and Skillbeck, looking like they're going to be really, really close, as is Freedom McKnight at the front. But here comes the run from Vincent Skillbeck. He'll be thinking about looking to the inside of the tanked SRT machine, and is it going to be enough room on the brakes? Yes, there is. No, there isn't.
Well, when they got to the corner, there wasn't enough room, but I think under brakes they had the room. McLeod slips through and takes the position from Skillbeck. That's very unfortunate, though. Oh, hello. It's continuing. Trying to find a way through here is Simon Mazzomo on Vincent Skillbeck. Round the outside of Brazil. I mean, it can be done, but it doesn't look like Mazzomo quite has the mechanical grip to do it just yet.
Just out of road and couldn't find a way through the same way Grant Keynes, who found a way through, did at this stage. There is Bailey Frid. There is Jamie McKnight, split by just a couple of tenths of a second as that gap then is started to just open up away from Craig Jones by Kurt Stenberg in 4th place. It's now 2 small packs of 2, looking like they're going to try and want to get through and want to gain places as we focus a little bit back there. Craig Anspach holding on into 6th place, but there is Mitch McLeod in 7th and feeling quite comfortable, I think you'd say, in the number 40 Torque car, having a pretty good run of things right now. One of your biggest movers throughout the field at this moment in time. An 18-car field it is as well, and this will be about who's got what, as Jet Bennett has found a way through on the 134 car there of Matthew Brunt. So he's got to try and brunt that one if he wants to try and get on through. Well, here's the move and how it happened, and it's a really untoward place. You don't see many into this corner, but Jet Bennett getting a great drive out of, I would say, the Farnier West corner and getting it done.
Yeah, indeed. Stavilo is the right-hander that he made the move at, and as cars in front switch over to take the racing line, the door opens for a move, and so good on Jet Bennett for taking advantage of that. In comes Henry King, meanwhile, into the pits, and I think this is the first real proper scheduled pit stop we've seen today as the battle continues up the front. So 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th splitting off into their own separate groups.
How much sliding do you want, Mr. McKnight? It cost him a 1/10 and more as he doesn't have the drive on the straight. So that's going to bring back in Morris and Stenberg into the fight as they jam on the brakes up the hill into Lay Coombe and Malmedy, which is the right-hander that follows that. It's going to be all about setup here. And McKnight is looking defensive more rather than offensive. He goes to cover off the move, and this will allow Fred the chance to break away a little bit. Everyone get nice and narrow here down the hill, and they do so at that moment in time. So ultimately they're okay, but Jamie McKnight with a really negative driving style there, defending more rather than attacking, and here comes Stenny.
Yes, indeed. Stenny on Morris on the outside into Puon. That's quite interesting. See if he can try the over-under at the second apex of this double apex corner. No, didn't quite get the drive. Also noting that Bailey Frid ran wide at No Name Corner as Michael Spithill has another issue down there at Lacombe. Stenberg right on the bumper of Morris again, as it seems our top 4 have split off into their 2x2 formation once again.
They certainly have, and this is why you have to be able to make moves and do so quickly, because if you get bogged down and frustrated, not only do you lose the chance to the cars in front, but you also don't really make any headway. You just get yourself a little bit more frustrated as Kurt Stenberg, a driver who I think it's fair to say does have a fuse sometimes and does have that lit. He is one of the characters that you definitely find, but he'll get a great run here through Blanchemont. It's a missed apex for Josh Morris, and it'll be the outside line where you're going to have to try and get this one done late on the brakes. That's too late. Morris has gone around. Frid's going to dive down into the pit, so now McKnight leads. It's second for Stenberg, and Josh Morris is going to bite the bullets and also dive down into the pits.
Yeah, he saw Stenny coming around him on the outside. Obviously, Stenny overshot the bus stop chicane there, but it was quite interesting there from Josh Morris. Fortunate for Stenberg, I guess, that he oversteered into the chicane as Mitchell McLeod makes his way past Craig Anspach, or does he? They're going to be side by side on the run up to Eau Rouge. No, it looks like maybe a missed gear slightly for Mitch McLeod. How is he going to pressure him coming into the corner? Just backs out. It's not a wise move to go side by side through there.
Get a good run off the exit, and you don't need to really worry about side-by-side. You can worry about attacking here off of this section. That's maybe what Mitch McLeod is thinking of right now in what is the battle for fourth place on the road at the moment. That's late. That's bold. That is slowing up. He cannot. What a drive there from Craig Anspach.
Wow, great situational awareness from Craig. They were so close to making contact, but he placed his car exactly where it needed to be. That was a bit of an optimistic move from Mitchell McLeod. Meanwhile, a race leader, Bailey Frid, he stays, he's out of the pits now, as is Josh Morris, all the way back onto the circuit. And in terms of pit stop times, it looks like Frid has gone for a bit more fuel. 19 seconds at a standstill in the pits, with Josh Morris 17.6 seconds.
And it just shows you how much time that Josh Morris lost half spinning down at the final chicane as he had the very awkward Pasta Maldonado entry there onto the lane, minus the contact all the way back in 2011, I think it was. But there is Jamie McKnight. He's got a bit of a gap now to Kurt Stenberg, 2.2 seconds. Two drivers who know each other very, very well out there on circuit as we take a little look once more at Craig Anspach in the tanked SRT machine, with the likes of Mitch McLeod wanting the talking car to really get on close and really have a good attack here as they go towards the Blanchemont corner. This is about commitment through here, and you can see that for the time being anyway, it looks like it's going to be a tough battle to see who's doing what. Who are the takers, though, coming onto the lane this time by? The answer is Craig Anspach wants in, as does Jamie McKnight. Dive down into the pits to cover off the move by Bailey Frid. Stenberg and Jones, they're staying out.
Indeed. So now this is going to be for the lead potentially. In comes Jet Bennett as well from 9th place. So I'm going to monitor Jamie McKnight's pit stop time here. He is now at a standstill in his bay, up on the jacks and taking the tyres. Bailey Frid coming up to the bus stop chicane now. If this is either going to be really close or it's going to be a huge gap for Bailey Frid, I would call, because he's right on the verge of getting past McKnight right about now as McKnight comes down off the jacks as I speak, and he is away.
He is, but remember where that pit lane comes out to, and you'll see, oh, hello, that's where I am, and get up to speed quickly. The question will become, how much of a gap has Bailey Frid managed to manifest? And it looks like it's going to be somewhere to the tune of about 1 second then from that stop. So great work by Bailey Frid, as for the time being anyway, Kurt Stenberg is being reeled back in here by Craig Jones in the future car.
He is indeed. Last lap from Stenny, a 221.29. 221.19 from Craig Jones. So just chipping away at Stenny's gap here, and you see the kind of wheel work they have to do through corners like Pouon. They're just balancing the car on the verge of sliding through those incredibly fast corners, and it's downhill to boot, which just increases the difficulty. Up across the curb goes Stenberg, and then Jones, not using as much of the curb as I would be expecting them to, but I think at the moment they are in preservation mode, just trying to bring it into the pits so they can have another lob at it.
Well, that is definitely the case. We are over the halfway stage now here in this event, with a lot of drivers searching for the right result here at this stage. And I'm just taking a look actually at that pit stop that Henry King managed to put in. He's only 2 seconds now off of Craig Anspach.
Yeah, it's Quite a good stop there from Henry King. Only spent 16 seconds at a standstill. Oh, careful, mate. That would have been an opportunity to jump into the pits, but I think Stenny might be driving to a number there. That's lost himself another 10th or two to Craig Jones as McLeod, Skillbeck, Mazomo, and Keynes all dive into the lane.
Have a little look at this then on the Motum replay. You can see, oh, full opposite lock, trying to gather that back up. And you don't save those too often. That had every intention of going around on him, but such is the veteran that Kurt Stenberg is. Most starts in SCOPS history has a very big slide as Skillbeck, Keynes, Mazomo and McLeod are all in on the lane, but well safe in the number 47 Trans-Tasman racing car to keep the machine on the straight and narrow, but it has allowed Craig Jones to guess where? Straight down the inside and into the side of him.
Oh my goodness. Right after the pit stop from those other guys, I mean, obviously Craig Jones smelling blood there from Stenny's mistake, but a little bit too much contact there, and Stenny going defensive very aggressively as Jones tried to force the issue up the inside. Incredibly close between these two, and I think Stenny now might be thinking, goodness me, I'm just going to come in. Jones taking a bit more curb through no-name corner, but Stenny going out onto the curb once again. This is a very tight fight between these two.
It absolutely is, and they're going to be having a little look at this one in the steward's office, seeing if they are being a little bit too aggressive with each other at the moment. The 111 of Craig Jones definitely wants through, but all of this battling is going to be costing one crucial thing, and that's time. Wide goes Stenberg. This allows Jones then to go to the outside at the second part of Fania, and this is going to be the chance door to door. This is what SCOPS is all about. Look at the inside, maybe at the Stavalo-Campus corner. That is a big firm no.
Great job by Stenny there to cover off the outside, and a big slide from Craig Jones on the exit of Paul Frere curve. Meanwhile, Craig Anspach and Mitchell McLeod, they have not left each other alone, having just come out of the pits, less than 0.2 of a second between them. I'm continuing to monitor the fight between Stenberg and Jones. Meanwhile, as McLeod, oh no, that looked a bit optimistic as well at Farnier, right into the side of Craig Anspach, but he gives the position right back.
He does, but ultimately there wasn't too much time lost from Craig Anspach, who effectively bodied the hit like a champion, and effectively will try and go on through and really try and attack in the late stages. Now we're looking here at the pits, and they both dive in, Stenberg and Jones realising that they were holding each other up a little bit, and it's a battle of pit crews. There's your leading two right now. Bailey Frid is there with Jamie McKnight. They are expected to re-inherit the race lead, but where do they fan out in comparison to Josh Morris, who had his moment? Here comes Mitch McLeod in the talking car down the inside, but he's going to have to try and fight on the outside of the second part of the corner, and that's what makes things difficult. Jamie McKnight goes purple on the lap. Here's the waiting game as the leaders go on by, and comfortably go on by at that point as well. There is the battle going on, and McLeod down the inside at the last horse on camber hairpin, and watch on the exit here. This is a 4-car battle nearly, as that is Jones jumping Stenberg in the stop.
Yeah, they actually made contact in pit lane when Jones came over to go into his box, and Jones also made contact with the wall on the way into pit lane, so he might be carrying some slight damage here as McKnight has a look for the lead at Bailey Frid. This is turning out to be a very interesting conclusion to this race as McLeod, Anspach, and Jones are all together. There's contact between Anspach and Jones, and Craig Anspach slamming into the wall at Lecombe. Jones off the circuit. That was messy.
That screamed of Hamilton Kobayashi 2011, and that one for Craig Anspach will hurt Craig Jones, slowing down, it seems, a little bit, maybe trying to redress that position, but this is what happens when you get aggressive out of the pit and try and attack. You can see, gives himself room, but you can see where Anspach is trying to hit the brakes. He just lurches over a little bit, and I think in that situation, when you were already behind coming into the braking zone and you're desperately trying to avoid the grass on the outside, which I think there was a little bit of tagging of there, there's no one to blame here in terms of that one for Craig Anspach than himself.
Well, that's the way things go then. Craig Jones has managed to escape any heavy damage, but Anspach, I think, will be limping back to the pits. Meanwhile, the lead battle continues, and I feel like it's only a matter of time for Jamie McKnight because he's well within draft range on the straights and through the long, flat-out sections like this run up to Blanchimont. Bailey Frid, meanwhile, he's put in some nice, consistent times, but I've just noticed a few mistakes creeping in for him. McKnight made all his mistakes at the start of the race, and now he's in a rhythm.
Well, here's the worry. They are thinking about how they're going to get this one to the end right now. Jamie McKnight and United Sim Sports Car definitely wants to get in on the action, but they also want to try and limit any action coming in from behind. You can see the gap to the Team Hyperdrive car in third position of Josh Morris. It's about 4.3 seconds, the gap at the moment. So they've done a good job so far. Into the pits comes Anspach there in the background as we focus on McLeod and Stenberg, fourth and fifth position right now. As here's this little battle. Simon Mazzomo, Grant Keynes, Vincent Skilbeck, 2 into 3 for the top 10.
Yes, indeed. I've been taking a look at that for the last couple of corners, and it's looking very close between Mazzomo and Keynes. Of course, this isn't the first time that Keynes and Skilbeck have been together on track, as it's another look from Jamie McKnight, and very deep into Lacombe go the both of them, bumper to bumper for the race lead, and it looks like the battle we were just focusing on has calmed down a bit for now. Meanwhile, McKnight might try at the inside of Brazil. No, he is not close enough yet, but you can tell he is right on the verge of it. He's lurching up towards Bailey Frid's bumper to the apex of every corner.
He is, but it's okay being up to the back of the bumper through every corner. You actually still have to go out there and pick up the move as well, and that's what we're not seeing from Jamie McKnight. He's a very patient driver. He'll wait for his chance. He'll wait for his opportunity, but at the moment, it's a case of, well, when can he see it? And at this stage, McKnight is going for the very, very safe option of I want 100% guarantees on my investment for this move. So we'll see how that works for the Too Easy Finance sponsored United Sim Sports car. But for the time being anyway, Bailey Frid will be happy defending this one from the front and will be looking to try and just run this race the way he has done pretty much all race long. So some good work looking like it's on the horizon as we've got battles up and down the order. Keep an eye out as well. 035, Daniel Hetterscheid started on the back row of the grid. He's up in 8th place and is trying to fight Henry King for 7th.
Yes, indeed, and Hetterscheid also having taken his pit stop, so a great advance forward, but he made a couple of mistakes in the last few corners, which has brought into play Simon Mazzomo, Grant Keynes, and Vincent Skilbeck. It's now a 4-way battle for, it seems, 8th place. Make that a 5-way battle for 7th place. If they all come together, that's a brief look there from Keynes on Mazzomo, but just kept him behind where it counted, and they are continuing to be one of the closest battles on track. Vincent Skilbeck just sitting behind these guys, watching the show, watching it play out.
Good little run there through turn number 1 for Grant Keynes. He wants a good drive off the exit. He does get that now, but he'll be searching for what's next in terms of this battle. Up Eau Rouge, which is the left, and Raddy on the right and left, which comes out of it. So here comes the battle up past that small kink, and Skilbeck using all of the road. He wants a drive. He's got effectively quintuple draft as he looks to go to the draft side to make this one happen. It's going to be the long way making it work, as there is Henry King being overtaken by Hetterscheid, and there's no move on the horizon for Grant Keynes because Skilbeck is through and gaining that one. But can Henry King, the boss of HJR, find himself a way through in the ANZ Motorsports HJR car? No is the answer, but when you're diving in deep like that one for Hetterscheid, he was fully floored, and fully floored in the exit. He had opposite lock.
Yeah, and that's no stranger to Hetterscheid, is opposite lock. So now these cars all line astern, and Mazzomo looking for the chance there. He sees a top 7 finish in his future, bumper to bumper at the first apex of Pouon for Hetterscheid and King. But looks like Daniel getting the better exit, and King letting Mazzomo go. That's quite interesting. Just lifted off on the exit of Pouon. Mazzomo now, it seems, with the advantage and the effort behind him now.
Here's someone struggling, Josh Morris, who is looking behind in the mirrors and who was about 5 seconds back, now 7 seconds back of your race leaders, and now we'll have to try and keep behind a hard-charging 40 of Mitch McLeod and an even harder-charging 47 of Kurt Stenberg. So the 032 with work to do here in terms of this one. Now you look at the insides and thinking, well, how late can you go? Stenberg's overcooked it again, and he will be going straight and on there at the corner for the second time in this race as he crosses over the line. That was always going to be a little bit scary as they played chicken with each other on the brakes, and it's an old friend now for Kurt Stenberg, Craig Jones.
Yep, back together again. We'll see how it works out between them. They do have a little bit of history in this race, some slight contact between the two of them, but they're keeping it going as King now pressuring Mazomo there out of La Source as Hedderscheid, it seems, is skipping away. Josh Morris up the top of the hill now. He is right in the draft range for Mitchell McLeod, and have a look at the run that McLeod's going to get down the straight. He's not going to be able to make a pass on Morris, I think, at least, if he's not as optimistic as he was in the past, but he's definitely brought himself into contention for a podium as Stenberg now having to defend massively from Jones, trying to maximize the exit onto this brief run between Malmedy and Brissell as, Mitchell McLeod's gone for the move on Josh Morris, and there's been a slight bit of contact between the two of them. This is all just a matter of time for Mitchell McLeod. Had another look at the no-name corner. Let's see what he does at Pouon.
He does have a name now. It's Jackie Hicks as they've gone on through, but for the time being anyway, through the right, double apex, Mitch McLeod, of course, streaming this one on Twitch. He'll be definitely wanting to try and get himself a good run and get himself as pretty much close as possible to getting a podium. He hasn't had one of those in a very long time. Henry King has dropped behind Vincent Skilbeck, so King now outside, now into 10th position right now in the Ultra-Tune sponsored ANZ Motorsports machine. There's your race leader, Bailey Frid. There is Shane McKnight behind. And crucially, McKnight, when he couldn't get the moves done, would have been worried about this scenario. Bailey Frid pulling away 9/10 of a second.
Yep, it looks like that's almost win secured for Bailey Frid as it's on between Morris and McLeod again on the run out of Blanchimont. They were bumper to bumper into the corner. McLeod going for the outside line, just touching the grass. Morris gives him just enough room to keep two wheels on the track. McLeod's going to try again here for the same move that he did on a car earlier. I believe it was Skilbeck. He's got the inside line now for La Source, but unfortunately messing up the exit. But that lead battle between Frid and McKnight, I think, is over unless Frid makes a mistake. Of course, Frid being in the lead, he has the advantage when it comes to tyre preservation. He can drive to his own pace. McKnight has to work to get by.
Yeah, just getting word in at HJR that fuel is tight for Henry King, so that's why he's struggling. But here's that battle, third position right now, and this is going to be a little bit awkward here for Josh Morris. He'll have to think about which way he wants to go. He defends it, then goes back to the racing line. Of course, he uses one line of movement here. Look at that on the brakes closing in on Mitch McLeod. That is like a shark behind, having itself a little bit of a look at play. Look at that there from Jones in the background. He wanted through on Kurt Stenberg. He saw open the door and he gets fenced for his troubles.
Oh, that's a shame there. Big shame between Stenberg and Jones as Mazomo sweeping around the outside of, goodness me, I think, goodness, we'll get a replay of that one in a second because this looks like a very messy situation. Henry King now right on the back of Grant Caines and Vincent Skilbeck, who had to give up that position to Simon Mazomo again. And oh no, Grant Caines a bit slow through Jackie X, might give the advantage to Henry King once again as Mazomo now right on the back of Daniel Hedderscheid. This could be 7th place for him in the next lap.
Certainly could, and there's only going to be 2 laps when they cross the line. We cut away to a motor and replay, see how this all managed to go a little bit awry for Craig Jones. He got a really good run up the Kemmel, and this is a place where you see all the fans on the banking on the left-hand side there, all watching this one. The virtual fans are watching with anticipation. You can see here how Craig Jones just really looks to try and set up a run through this second half, gets the power down nice and early, has a look to the inside, can't get it all sorted, and well, Kurt Stenberg's fenced him. There's no other way of saying that. Kurt Stenberg has fenced Craig Jones.
I felt like Stenny could have taken a bit of a straighter trajectory off the curb, but you saw there might have been a bit of phantom contact between himself and Jones right there. Oh man, that is no. I'm not talking about the contact behind them. I'm just thinking I could swear I saw a slight bit of rear end contact, but Josh Morris now getting up into. Wow, what's going on here? Kurt Stenberg has somehow gotten past both Mitchell McLeod and Josh Morris.
Final chicane.
Something.
Final chicane. Let's go back on the Motum replay. The final chicane. Josh Morris, Mitchell McLeod. Mitch didn't sound like he was too happy, nor did Josh Morris. So this is the little look that we see. So here we go on the brakes into that final chicane. You can see Mitch trying to pull it up. Pull it up. Boom! There's the contact. And all of a sudden, as Mitch McLeod tried to redress it, and they ultimately have that bit of contact on the straight. Stenberg, oh my goodness me, that was very much a case of we are not going to give 1 inch, we're not going to give 1 yard, and Kurt Stenberg finds himself on the podium.
Well, quite interesting there, but there's probably still going to be something to say from race control. On board with Josh Morris, you see that they were together, but they couldn't get out of each other's hair. You can see Morris trying to keep the rear end under control, but McLeod was trying to get back onto the circuit right beside him. When you make side-by-side contact like that, the cars almost get sucked into each other.
And you also have to remember as well, because Mitchell McLeod is outside of the racing surface, which is defined by the white lines out here on track, there is no legal obligation for Josh Morris to leave him any room to come back out onto circuit. So Josh Morris there in that scenario, he had control of the track, and it was the responsibility, you would say, of Mitchell McLeod to find a safe way back onto circuit, which he very nearly didn't. So this is another little battle that we're seeing. Mazzomo in 9th has lost the place to Vincent Skilbeck here, and he's got Simon Mazzomo has got Henry King for company, but Henry King, as we know, is probably not going to be very likely to make that move here, Reese, because he is tight on fuel.
Indeed, but he'll be taking advantage of the draft offered here by Mazzomo. He can afford to save a few milliliters of fuel by lifting off early in the braking zone. Big oversteer moment for Mazzomo out of Blanchimont. It's a very scary corner in these machines. King closes up under the brakes, as does Grant Keynes. Four-way battle into the chicane. King tries the narrow exit, but Mazzomo across the line to start his final lap seems to have the advantage. King, I don't think, will be able to find a way back past him.
Well, never say never. There are chances here late on in this race, and there is Jet Bennett in the Exto Gaming car in 12th place. He definitely wants to get himself close enough to make some moves. The lead battle is 0.8 of a second right now, and it's looking like it could be one where maybe if Bailey Frid makes a small mistake, Jamie McKnight can capitalise. The veteran, some would say the 0.27 is Bailey Frid. Here you can see that gap just clawing back down to about 3/4 of a second on the brakes into Bruxelles. Frid has led the majority of this race, but he is not safe. He is not home and dry, and very much like the US general election, it's going to be a case of counting a lot of votes until the very, very end to see who has what. There is Bennett in 12th position. He will definitely want to get through on Keynes and get through quickly. He's thinking of the inside into Bruxelles. He's not got an avenue there to really try and pursue that one through on him, but for the time being, it's the final chicane coming up then for Bailey Friddy, who maintains that 0.8 of a second margin, and he's certainly hoping that from now until the end, there is going to be no real worries at this stage for a driver who has pretty much decided to stamp his will on this race. Started on the pole position. It's not often that you see pole position drivers go away and win this sort of race in Scops, but this looks like that was the key today for Bailey Frid. You can see that draft coming back down to 0.6 of a second. There could still be room for a dive late here from Jamie McKnight. This is going to have to be some brave, committed driving if he is to find this one, but for the time being, it looks like Frid on the brakes. We have a look. Definitely has the margin through the final 2 corners, and welcome to top split, because Bailey Frid will come to the line and he will take a masterful victory against one of the good guys in Jamie McKnight. Stenberg behind will take a controversial podium.
He will indeed, and I think he'll be happy with that position at the end of it. It looks like Stenberg's conked out across the line out of fuel, and have a look at this between Vincent Skilbeck and Daniel Hedderscheid. Hedderscheid's out of fuel. He's run out of fuel at the final corner. He's lost all of those positions.
And look at that, Henry King as well out of fuel. And there was a balking there for Simon Mazzomo. Had to be very careful that he wasn't pushing Hedderscheid over the line, especially with what happened between Adam Briggs and Andrew Dyson last time out 1 week ago at Belle Isle. But Simon Mazzomo really got the rotten end of the apple, so to speak. He got the one with the worm in it. So going through the final section, I wonder if we can catch a Motum replay of what happened there with Hedderscheid, because that was a really, really awkward end for Mazzomo, who just got himself caught on the phase of acceleration. So here's Hedderscheid there as he gets himself into a very sticky position going through Blanchemont. He'll be looking at the gauge. He'll be getting the call from the spotter going, okay, we're out of fuel, as he goes down on the brakes. And I apologise for my really, really bad Australian accent, but that's how it goes. You can see has to leave the room, and on the power, there's nothing there. Mazzomo gets right in on it. He's got nowhere to go. Come on, move, move. And then all of a sudden, Keynes just steals a position, very nearly stealing a place there at the end was Jet Bennett.
Yes, indeed. So Daniel Hedderscheid at the end of it in 11th after what was a very strong drive. And there goes Mr. Evans for the 12th place gap. That is very, very close between Evans and King. So that just goes to show you got to fuel up your car properly when you do a race like this.
You certainly do. Official classified results, though, we're going to get them up on screen for you, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, the new executive at iRacing, Dale Earnhardt Jr. there in the bottom right of your screen, with one of the legends of iRacing there alongside him. Bailey Frid, though, picks up the race victory then. 17 laps worth of action. He wins by just 0.6 of a second. Come the end over Jamie McKnight, with Kurt Stenberg coming home in third position, controversially, after his contact with Craig Jones. Josh Morris will take fourth after his contact with Mitchell McLeod, but Craig Jones in sixth position will feel like Kurt Stenberg really did him a disservice then, putting him into the wall in the mid to late of that race. Vincent Skilbeck will take seventh in the Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic car, and it was mayhem definitely in the later stages. Grant Keynes taking the position away from Simon Zomo on the final corner, who just managed to squeak ahead of Jet Bennett.
And all of those drivers took advantage of Daniel Hedderscheid running out of fuel out of the final corner. He has to settle for 11th despite running well into the top 10 during the race. Shane Evans comes across the line just less than a tenth ahead of Henry King, who also ran out of fuel. Sebastian Flock comes home in 14th with Brunt, Spithill and Crawford, your last finishers. Craig Anspatch, unfortunately, having to retire from this race after that contact earlier with, I believe it was Josh Morris.
So, some issues then for Craig Anspatch, the only non-finisher here in this event.
Sorry.
We go on, it's Vince Skilbeck, who did have that contact, of course, earlier on. But what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, here for you right now is just step aside very briefly with SimSpeed TV, because when we come back, it is your main event for the night. And what's going to be key is that championship battle. It's the last chance to drop around. Can Madison Down put some more points on the board, or will Force El Nabi once more tighten the purse strings heading towards Elkhart Lake? We will see you in a couple of moments' time.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top
Oh
here!
my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your virtual racing school SCOPS 2020 season, the penultimate round. Overall, we find ourselves here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the second of the driver's choices rounds, and you have to start thinking and feeling that this is going to be a very entertaining run from now to the end of the championship. You never quite know when it comes to this sort of racing, but what we do know about Spa-Francorchamps is that it does put on some amazing action, and we saw how aggressive it could go and get through the later stages of the races. Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth all ran themselves into a few troubles here and there. My name's Jake Sperry here on the ICU Sports Network, brought to you with SimSpeed TV. Alongside me is the Southpaw racer, Reese Gardner. Now, Reese, that would be a really strong indication, that Super Split 2, with 18 vehicles, on how 40 vehicles are going to have themselves a really, really strong battle around this place. This could get very messy very, very quickly, and you have to feel around a track like this, especially in the early stages, when you got the likes of, say, Eau Rouge Radion, and you got drivers who'll be fighting, scrapping for positions. It could very easily go quite haywire.
Yeah, absolutely. That Split 2 race was a great indication of how this 250-kilometer single race for Split 1 is going to go. Noticing that that 2x2 battles forming very easily, and there's always a place that you can try and get by. Though a lot of drivers tried and many failed in Split 2. We'll see how they go in Split 1. Of course, we have pit stops to think about in this one too. In our standard 250-kilometer race format, there's 2 mandatory pit stops and no fuel tank restriction. As I said before, Split 2 went off. It's going to be about 5.4 to 5.5 litres per lap, and we should expect a total of 87 litres to be taken throughout those 2 stops. Here's the championship standings, meanwhile, and the top 8 are all in contention for the title by mathematics. Unfortunately, for Harley Haber and also for Jordan Caruso, who took a sensational pole position last round at Belle Isle, they have to sit this one out because they're serving race bans. So, unfortunately for Harley, he's not going to be able to advance forward, but it's still very close between El Nabi and Down at the top.
133 points. You feel like you've got to be within 400 to have any shot of the title going into the final stages, but what's key is the likes of Andrew Gilliam and James Scott, who are within the margins required here, and they will be both searching for big points so that their outside shots of the championship still hold some water. Forzan, though, will be hoping that Madison Down runs into a couple of troubles either today or at the final round, which, of course, we're talking about that final round, cannot be dropped in any way, shape, or form. Whatever happens at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, effectively the right way to say it here, Reese, is it stays at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And in terms of win count for our top 5, Down has taken 5 wins. And remember, he didn't start racing this season until round 3 at Sebring. So that tells you something about his championship run. El Nabi took 3 wins, 2 of them at Sonoma in round 2 and 1 at Belle Isle in the last round. Andrew Gilliam took both of his wins at Mosport. James Scott took the win in the opening round of the season. Jake Maloney winning the Phillip Island 500 with Richard Hampstead. So at the moment on success, it looks like Madison Down has got everyone down pat, but once again, it could all change at Elkhart Lake. If a retirement for Down happens there at Road America, then that is door open for El Nabi and his cohorts.
Well, it's also worth reminding that if Forza Nanabi can find 2 wins in the final 2 races of the championship, then it's going to be a case of, well, where's next on the countback? Second place finishes? That would be a little bit awkward if things were tied on points towards the end of the championship. But there is the focus on one of the United SimSport cars right now. Forza Nanabi is the fastest in practice at the moment, as we got eyes on him right now in the Mustang, having a pretty good run of things at this moment in time. You can see though here how the track temperature is just a little bit hotter than it was earlier on. It was 17 degrees. Well, it's doubled up. It's 41 at this moment in time, which is going to make life very, very difficult to go and pilot a way around. But every driver will be looking to try and come to terms with how this race is all going to work out. Most importantly, though, is to talk about a couple drivers who will be looking for maybe newer starts around this place. The 152 looks like it's going to be an example of this. Just found the barriers, though, ever so slightly through Bruxelles, and that's Luke Rosella.
Yes, indeed. That's a driver that we have not seen much of beforehand, so it'll be interesting to see how Luke goes in this particular round. But currently, looks like Scott and Ross doing very well on the timesheets in the practice session. Glenn Postlethwaite making a good statement as well for Synergy Sim Racing, and Madison Down yet to set a time in the practice session, but of course, it is only practice. Don't have to set times right now. It's only in the 30-minute qualifying session that it really counts. And the qualifying session is 30 minutes because it is an incredibly long lap here at Spa. 7 kilometers in length. It's about 800 meters longer than Mount Panorama.
It certainly is the longest race on the calendar this season, 7.004 kilometers, as traditionally this track is actually outside the longest permitted length for an FIA accredited track. So that tells you something about this place, how very, very long it is, and how it actually does fall maybe a little bit as a outlier in terms of some of the rules and regulations that are there as things go on. Tom Freer just jumping up then into 3rd position in the pursuit cars, which are, it's not the pursuit cars, the Synergy cars, which are 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. There is the pursuit car of Andrew Gilliam, currently 6th at the moment here in what is practice right now. Now, here's the question about Andrew Gilliam. He's someone who has had a someone who has had a very much breakout season in terms of his perspective, but you feel that early on in the championship push, he had a couple of rounds which went awry, went away from him and couldn't gather up consistency in the early part of the season. What do you think he's going to need to do at the start of next season, maybe, to start strong?
Well, he's going to have to put in an awful lot of effort over the off-season to make sure that he's got a handle on the car like he has this season. Looking at Gilliam's previous results, well, obviously taking the double win at Mosport, and he's been in and around the top 7, maybe the top 5 in many rounds, but the outlying finishes for me are a 25th place at the second race at Sonoma, and then you got to go to 14th place down at Sebring, and a pair of 10th place finishes there at Phillip Island. So unfortunately for Gilliam, he's had a couple of outliers in his championship that have stymied his run. But if he can get that sorted out, if he can sort out those problem circuits, problem rounds, I'm sure he can have a proper run at a title.
He certainly could do, and that's going to be worth keeping in mind maybe next season, as this season he has a very big outliers shot at trying to pick everything up and making sure that it works out for him. Ethan Warren is the fastest now in this practice session as he gets himself up to the top of the board. Teamless at this stage is the number 59, running in matte black as he goes up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. So no guarantees on who's got the pace and who's got the ideas sorted about this race right now. So anything can happen, and one of the things that does make life a little bit awkward for these title contending drivers is maybe drivers who come in for a race here and a race there, like Ethan Warren tends to do, and you start thinking about, okay, this could be awkward. Forzan puts himself back on top of the times and says, no, I want to lead in practice here. But ultimately, it gets very, very complicated when you've got drivers not fighting for championships right in the middle of things.
Yeah, indeed. And also another reason you see drivers ringing in towards the end of the season is sometimes they'll be looking at a run for next season and they just want to get a couple of races under their belt to understand the state of play or get used to the car once again. Of course, that's likely not the reason Ethan Warren's decided to jump in, but nonetheless, he could be the cat amongst the pigeons if he maintains this pace.
Well, we will certainly have to see, and that half an hour's worth of qualifying is going to be a very telling story. There's Damien Johnstone in the 033. Now, let's talk Synergy for a moment, because it looks like they're starting to put together a super team of sorts as they picked up another couple more drivers over the course of this last week. And that driver, of course, is Wayne Burke, which is going to be a very, very good asset back to the team, the same way that Jordan Ross did as well. That open invitation, the likes that Synergy has opened up to some of its prior members who went on to Pastors New, the ability to get on back, get things worked out. This is where we're going to be maybe seeing them as that tour de force who maybe does come out over the next year or so, potentially as that second, maybe third best team out there on the grid, and can really start knocking on the door of putting some big results and maybe even having one driver, potentially two, in a championship fight.
Yeah, Synergy's main strength has always been their numbers. They're, in terms of amount of drivers, one of the biggest teams in the community. They always have been. So this recent push by them, getting some of their old drivers back and bringing some new drivers into the fold from teams like Pursuit and teams like Wheelie Bins as well. You know, it's really good to see that Synergy are putting together a proper squad here that could potentially threaten 4 top 5s, maybe even a championship, but I don't know if they're quite at that stage yet. Of course, they got drivers like Jordan Ross and Glenn Postlethwaite in their stable, as well as Brenton Hobson, though Hobbo not making an appearance here today, but nonetheless, they've always got potential. Oh, is he?
There you are. Hobbo 88 for you. 27.
My apologies. I can get lost in the timesheets sometimes and skip over names. That's my own fault. I do apologize, Hobbo, and to all of his viewers on Twitch. I mean, obviously, he's got a lot of people tuning in for this one.
He certainly does. He's a little bit down the order at the moment, but he'll be certainly searching. Now, here's part of a team that's having a really good run. So this is Justin Wallace in the Race on Oscar, but they've got themselves 4 Race on Oscars in this field today. Benjamin J. Smith is one of them. Andrew Mogridge is another, and there is Tyler Blackburn there on screen in the 947. There is Mogridge in the 009. So 4 to the dance for Race on Oz, who have been populating the back end of the top splits and the top end of the second splits, and they'll be certainly searching for a lot of results, as will the Simrigs.com DPR team, who have themselves a number of drivers here today. Andrew Dyson got caught a little bit short of fuel coming to the end last time out, and of course with the pushing that was in the rule book, they both got themselves pretty hefty penalties.
Yeah, that they did. Of course, I did bring that up when the incident happened. It's against the rules in SCOPS to push a car across the line if it's out of fuel. So, obviously, both Briggsy and Dyson getting slapped with some penalties by race control for that. But fortunately for them, they have not received a race ban yet. They'll be able to keep on going in this season, which has been an on and off season for DPR, but still some very strong moments, particularly, I think, Andrew Dyson's double split 2 win at the start of the season and the form they had in the Enduros.
Yes, and that form, they will definitely want to try and carry on in Simrigs.com DPR. They definitely know how to get themselves up near the pointy end. Someone who had a great race last time out at Belle Isle. It's the 209 of Chris Coxhead. What could he potentially do in order to rock the apple cart at this stage and get things going? Or should I say Brett Loxton here in the 209, trying to get on through. Coxhead, of course, the 208, if memory serves me correctly. So Brett Loxton here will be definitely searching for a little bit of something, but we are just getting ourselves towards the end of this practice, and qualifying will be coming up in the not too distant future. But HDR, they're looking pretty good. The likes of Zuva, ANZ, and all of the rest of the team. Looks like it could be a really, really interesting run to see how they situate themselves with the qualifying session that's coming up.
Yes, indeed, and the qualifying session will be starting in the next couple of seconds. The session has now ticked over. To take a brief look at the podium that the drivers up the top will be visiting at the end of this 250-kilometre race. So, weather reset, the sun is now back out, and the first driver out of the pits is going to be the 41 of Andrew Dyson, leading the charge.
Andrew Dyson then will be leading everyone through as they can see the slew of drivers trying to make their way out of the pits and getting themselves a pretty solid run. A couple of drivers waiting to get themselves to the very, very back and give themselves a bit of space to go out there and make a drive. Of course, everyone's going to have to try and space themselves out in terms of the way that they're trying to get their runs going. So this could be a little bit of an awkward one in terms of how they figure this out in qualifying. And this is going to be a tough 30 minutes worth of qualifying, because with such hot track temperatures and how the sky is looking right now, it may just be with the tyres that they have underneath them that maybe it's one lap only that gives them the best run possible. Anything after that is diminishing returns. Are they 3 wide here on the outlap?
Yeah, this is the effect of everyone trying to find themselves some space, because James Scott is going at a very reduced rate of speed. Andrew Dyson is way ahead of all these guys now, so Scott has the gap he needs, but everyone's just concertinaing up behind them as everyone's just trying to find a spot around this lap to do a lap cleanly. You'd need about 1.5, maybe 2 seconds to the car ahead if you want to be able to do your lap without distractions. There is Andrew Dyson all on his lonesome, but James Scott still touring around at about 190 kilometers an hour on the run up to this corner that Dyson's going through now. This is going to be an interesting start to the session, right at the end of the lap.
It certainly is going to be an interesting start to this session. You have to start wondering here. Andrew Dyson's going to be giving himself a lot of room to put a really good lap in on the board. And when we do get to that start-finish line, we'll be taking a look on board with him for a lap around this circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. The number 41 machine will be definitely hoping for some good work here today. And well, there's a little look at him trying to go through this Blanchimont corner, which leads of course to that final chicane in the Ardennes. It's a beautiful, beautiful day for these drivers to go out there and race. And well, Reese, a lap on board with Dyson as we take a little look at this Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
On the throttle nicely, out of the bus stop chicane, move on over to the left-hand side of the circuit as you come across the start-finish line. Look for the 100-meter marker at La Source, braking as deep as you can into this hairpin using the rubber. A nice exit as well from Andrew Dyson, just straight line it across the curb. Try and get the best run you can for the next corners at Eau Rouge and Radillon. Once again, that hill looming in the distance, and you're right there before you know it, super hard across the curbs, right in the curb through Radillon, and then all the way across the curb at the top of the hill. Dyson using the line very nicely. Down onto the Kemmel Straight then, this is where the cars reach their highest speed, just touching 270 kilometers an hour as he gums into the braking zone. The braking point is a bit later for Lacombe than you expect. You can carry an awful lot of speed through here, and then to Malmedy, you've got to really control the throttle through here. Just try your best to keep the rear end in check and use the curb on exit to extend your line. Down into Bruxelles, you can double apex this corner in some cases, but these drivers electing to just stick to the inside the whole way through. Then you go to Jackie X corner. He uses the curb on the entry to tighten up his line into the corner, and a very nice exit in third and then up into fourth gear. This is one of the most challenging corners on the circuit. Pouon down into the high revs in third gear and just balancing the throttle as you get onto the second apex. You got to keep the car as straight as possible through there. It'll be easy to slide on old tires. Then into Fognier, a slow, very flowing section of corners in third gear. I think Dyson might have pushed a bit too hard through the right-hander there. You want to try and extend the entry into the left. Then down into Stavelot, another third gear corner. He used second briefly to get the car slowed down and just balancing the throttle through Paul Frere curve, and then out onto the throttle, flat out, let that 650 horsepower sing at 7,500 RPM, up to Blanchimont. Got to stick to the left through the first section and then just lift off in 6th gear. A touch of the brakes as well into 5th for Andrew Dyson. And oh, I feel like that might have been just on the verge of an off-track 1X for him. But he breaks down into the bus stop chicane and elects to go for the pits. That's an invalidated lap.
That's how easily it can go wrong. So James Scott then will have the ability to put the first time on the board. He's 4th in the championship right now as the 088. The early points leader he was, and it's a 19.8, which is the time to beat an 8:07. El Navi has got himself an 8:17. He's 100th behind in 2nd position. So some good times in the early goings there, but ultimately it is James Scott who gets the first real time on the board. Reese Keane searching for something then in the simrings.com DPR car. He's going to be diving down then into the pitch. Tom Freer 3rd, Jordan Ross 4th, Dylan Rudd at the moment in 5th place. But these times are only just now starting to knock up onto the board. So we'll see who is really having a good run. Rob Bowden in the tanked SRT machine is definitely searching for a little bit of something, as everybody, you could say, is looking for something. But at this stage, Rob Bowden will make that drive to the line, and it's a long, long drag. He does a 21.4, and this is where you're going to see a lot of disparity in those times, maybe upwards of 2 seconds between the very best, as there you can see it is 7/10 between 2nd and 3rd at this moment.
Damian Johnstone just popping himself up into P7 now as Ethan Warren comes across the line to start his first official lap. That is a 2:19.67 from Madison Down, and that is pole by about 1.5 tenths. Good job there in the opening salvo for Down.
Madison Down has had issues in qualifyings like this, where they have been long. Everyone's been out there on circuit, and he hasn't been able to drag enough time out of the vehicle. So this may just be a case where a good qualifying lap now puts him in the best possible position. Does the championship leader. You can tell he's the championship leader. He's got the red banner on top of the car, and that is your indicator out here today. There's a number of drivers who'll be searching for times. Justin Wallace is one of them at the moment in the 913, but I want to pay a little bit of attention to the 6 machine, who doesn't often get up into top split. Good friend of all of ours. He's taking the scenic route right now through Stavelo Corner and Campus Corner. That's Cameron Dance.
It is indeed, and with a controversial finish for him in the international division of the Majors series. That was quite a long and hard-fought fight between himself and Will Leslie, decided by passing on the apron. So Cameron, I think, still hurting a little bit from that, but he's got Scops to focus on now, and in 21st, not too bad of a run. He is 2nd last of the drivers that have set times so far, but that is only 22 times. We've got plenty more drivers who have yet to put a time onto the board, like Ben Christensen here.
Ben Christensen will be searching for a good run in the number 9 today. He felt that he had pace at Belle Isle, but wasn't able to really get much out of it there as he passes a couple of the simrigs.com DPR cars as he makes his run towards Stavelo Corner. Towards Blanchemont Corner out on circuit. Here's the left, and he's been struggling with that one a little bit all the time. He flashes the lights. Come on, get out of the way. I'm on a flyer here as he jams on the brakes and goes on through. Even though this track is 7Ks long, it is still really tough to try and get yourself a little bit of space sometimes out here around this track. But Christensen over the line, 2:21.7. That's not the best in the world, 24th position. It's the slowest of the times that we have seen effectively so far, and he'll have work to be done at this stage as at this moment in time Ethan Warren has just jumped up into 4th position. But here is Kane Hewson looking for a run over to the line. He does a 2:21.8, which is good enough for 26th place, so he's the new foot of the table.
He is indeed. What about Christian Smart for Synergy Sim Racing? Quite a few team changes have gone on this season. The 999 then across the line, and looks like it's going to be another lap in the 221s. It is a 2:21.809. That puts him into 26th, just pipping Kane Hewson. So I think drivers, now that the first times have been set, struggling to actually get the best out of their cars. You've got to remember remember, it's a hot track and there are 40 cars out there pounding around and heating up the racing line in addition to the sun. So the track is going to get slipperier as time goes on, and it's going to be a bit more difficult to find that time.
A few drivers haven't set a lap time as of yet. Glenn Postlethwaite is one of them in the 95 machine. Andrew Gilliam is another one who hasn't set the times. If you look at those drivers who are inside the top 10 right now, Philip Worley and Dylan Rudd are the two here, Reese, that I think really stand out.
Yeah, I agree. Worley up there into 6th and Dylan Rudd remaining in 8th after setting a time good enough for P5 early on. So they are going to have to pull out the stops and do a second run to try and consolidate that position. Because remember, we've still got somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 15 drivers that have yet to set times. Yes, indeed, Andrew Dyson up into P5. Excellent job. I think DPR are feeling really good about this one.
I think they are as well, and, well, why wouldn't they right now with Andrew Dyson in 5th position? That looked like a really, really good lap time from the number 41, but we're focusing on Postlethwaite for the moment in the Synergy Sim Racing machine, on the brakes into the final chicane. How's things looking? Has a double take slightly. They're trying to get it all nicely turned in, and fights the car, just soars away on the wheel on the exit, and Pozzie's going to come to the line, 220.7. there for him. That's good enough for 10th place, but Andrew Gilliam just behind him there jumps up into P5 with that time in the 201. He's got to find a 10th or so to jump Ethan Warren, but your 4 championship contenders are 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 5th.
That they are. Looking like a very interesting qualifying session so far, and we've still got more than half of it to go. What about Chris Coxhead? See what he can do in the number 208. Down into Eau Rouge. These Zuva cars have been quite good over the season. Bailey Fridd as well is going to be coming up to the line to set his time. Of course, winner of Split 2 and moving to Pursuit Sim Racing from Mach 1. What's the time for him? A 221.67. That's going to put him down in 32nd position to start off with.
Just having a little look at Philip Worley. He's had a moment out there on track, and it is with Ben Christensen, who tried to get across out there on circuit and effectively got tagged into the wall, trying to get out of the way of Worley. So for Christensen, who is now really slow and looking forward here, he might be getting himself the ire of the stewards. He just got himself caught, I think, in a bit of that catch-22 where, okay, I know where the inside of the track is, but how much time do I have trying to get up to speed out of the pits?
Yeah, it looks like Christensen was trying to swap over to let Worley by on the run up to Eau Rouge, but it was a bit mistimed there, and so there was contact between the two drivers. Forzan Elnabi, meanwhile, 3rd place at the moment behind Scott and Down. He's got 0.147 to make up if he wants to try and claim pole position here. It's a nice clean end to the lap for him, using the curbs nicely. Across the line he goes, and it's a 219.753 up into 2nd place.
That's a very good lap time, but James Scott just behind says, nope, I am still having that 2nd place. He's 300th behind Madison Down at the moment. So these 3 are pretty much, you can't split them by too much at the moment. Damien Johnstone there in 17th place. Worth noting that Brett Loxton's jumped up to 7th as now Benjamin J. Smith puts the race on Oscar in 10th place. Worley to 9th, but Jordan Ross jumped up into 8th place, ties the time with Brett Loxton. So everybody's starting to find some time here in this qualifying session at around the halfway stage.
Yeah, there's enough rubber being put onto the circuit now that I think it's in its sweet spot. As you get towards the session, though, you might see a bit more slipperiness around the circuit. Can Damien Johnstone, meanwhile, improve on his 18th spot? Across the line he goes in the 033. That's a 220.683 up into 12th place. A great improvement.
6th place is Hobbo 88 into 9th as we focus on the championship leader, the man on pole position provisionally at this moment in time. Madison Down is searching for a good time at this stage, and we'll see whether he is able to try and get that one to work for him in the number 77. You can see him using all of the road available to him through the Blanchimont corner and now in towards the final chicane. What can the Trans-Tasman driver find at this stage? Has he got enough over the line to put himself a little bit more comfortably on pole position? It's a 6:04. Oh, yes, he does. He finds himself about half a tenth, and now he's got almost a whole tenth of a second to himself.
He does indeed, and I think for Scott and El Navi, that's slightly demoralizing. They're just going to have to find a little bit more time around the circuit to try and break Madison down, stranglehold on this session at the moment. Reese Keane, another one of the drivers from DPR in this top split. And, you know, DPR emerging at the start of this season and continuing the way they have. They've become a proper force in this series, and Reese Keane, one of the drivers carrying the torch for them. Another one of the drivers to have not set a time yet, but I think this time's going to be all right at the very least. It's a bit oversteering on the exit of Farnier, but great car control from Keane to keep it going. It's looking reasonably smooth so far.
He had a lot of right into what was the left-handed corner, which is never the quickest way to go on through it. But Reese Keane there getting a good run out of the curve of Paul Frere. Now here is the run towards Blanchimont corner. How is he going to be able to manage this one through the left? He's struggling a bit with understeer though, and he may have just pushed it over the margin ever so slightly. We'll have to have a look at this one as he jams down on the gears to number 1, which is the slowest gear that you have available to you. And now power towards the line for Reese Keane. What's he going to be able to manage here coming over the line? The answer is it's a 21-1 for him as he crosses, and that's good enough for the 13th row outside.
Indeed, looks like he'll be joining Kobe Jones at least for now, but that session length is still ticking down. Luke Rosella, the debutant, was 31st, now a 2:21.0, so that puts him into 23rd position. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all in the Australian crash repairs car there for Luke Rosella. He'll be certainly hoping that there is more time available. Your top 10 as things stands is Down, Scott, El Nabi, Warren, Gilliam, Dyson, Loxton, Ross, Hobson and Freer. So Synergy are 8th, 9th and 10th at the moment here in qualifying, as we focus on the privateer and the matte black. Ethan, Warren, Holden on the front and the back. Just to remind everybody what style of vehicle he is driving. He is driving the Holden with Kobe Jones there just in front in the HJR and ANZ Motorsports Jinx Shifters machine. But here towards the line goes one Mr. Ethan Warren. This looks like he's gearing up then potentially for an opportunity on this lap. As we look at the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car here, this is Corey Shepherd, who is maybe a little bit down the order from what he'd want. He'd be eyeing up probably top 15 would be a good idea, especially with Dylan Rudd in 14th place, who you could argue is maybe second fiddle in that team to Corey Shepherd.
Perhaps. I mean, Corey Shepherd, we sang his praises at Belle Isle last week, and he indeed did a very good job there, finishing in the top 10 in Split 1, but a little bit out of position compared to that at the moment. We'll see how well he does on this lap. His current fastest time is a 2-minute 21.278, and if he can find just 0.4 of a second, that will put him up into the top 20. So see how Shepherd does onto the brakes in a Blanchimont. Looked like a nice clean line towards the apex there for him. Altus car being liberal with the track limits as well. But down into the bus stop chicane he goes. And how much curb is he going to take here? He keeps it nice and level over those sawtooth curbs. Barely any complaints from the car at all. Out across the line he goes, and it's a 220.86. He did find 0.4, and he has gotten into the top 20.
And he is right on the edge of that 20th position. Then
he escaped back to the pits.
Session
done.
Session done. It's so easy to do. You can find yourself falling into that very, very same category of, okay, this is what I do in official races. This is what I do in practice all the time. But there is a no escape rule here in qualifying. And Corey Shepherd now will go no higher than 20th position in this qualifying session. So
he's going back out onto the circuit.
Where they are. And if he is coming back out onto the circuit, then the stewards will have to be alerted pretty quickly to what's just happened, and hopefully he will be told to pull over and you will not go any quicker on this lap, otherwise you're not getting any more laps out in qualifying. We'll slap you with an even harsher penalty.
Yes, indeed. So, and there comes the call over the voice chat from Race Control. Corey Shepherd being told by Race Control to please come back into the pits. Your session is officially done because you escaped back, and that is against the rules. Glenn Postlethwaite goes P7, meanwhile, on a 220.359, another small improvement for the Synergy Sim Racing machines. As we're hearing, Thomas Hens here in the number 52, on for quite the lap. He's doing well in the championship in 6th place, and we'll see if he'll be able to capitalize again.
Thomas Hens has just been that sort of Ross Rizzo-style driver as Glenn Postlethwaite jumps up to 7th position in the qualifying right now. So Posy having a good run at the moment, but Hinsey in the RA2 car, part of the HAR, right on the ragged edge there, trying to get as much as he could through the corner. All 4 tyres over the white line and hugging that curb. He does have that sort of area he can attack, but going through Blanchemont, is he over the curb? Yes, he is again. He's using all of the road, and maybe there is some time for the driver who, quote-unquote, the meme with Thomas Hens is, if he retires, he's a little bit quicker. I don't know if he's retired at any point this season, but he's got the, I would say, the negative Zuva unicorn on the car, but it's a 220.491 for him there, which is a pretty good time, good enough to just sneak inside the top 10 behind Brett Loxton, his teammate.
Yes, that is an improvement of 0.3 there from Thomas Hens. A very solid lap in that 2nd or 3rd run. Still got 9 minutes left, but around a track like this, that's only enough time for an out lap and 1 hot lap. So if you want to get one more time on the board, you have to go out now. Forzan El Nabi, meanwhile, using all of the curb on the exit of Stavilo and all of the curb on the exit of Paul Frere as well. Oh my goodness, Andrew Dyson, up into P5 once again. Hello.
Gains 1 place, jumps over Andrew Gilliam, and crucially was only 200ths behind Ethan Warren. It seems like Andrew Dyson wants to try and get a good run. Forzan El Nabi's got traffic, though, at the end of his lap, and this is going to be awkward here. That's one of the Pursuit Sim Racing cars there in a bit of trouble, so he'll dive down into the pits, get a little fresh set of rubber, and get back going again. Justin Wallace, though, here in the race on Oscar in the 913 will be searching for a little bit of time here in this one at the moment, and he's certainly hoping that he's going to get a good run through the final corner. He does, and he uses all of that curb on the exit, and this is going to be a drive to the line. It's a 220.6. That's good enough for 14th place. That's a really good run from Justin Wallace.
Yeah, not bad at all. It's awesome to see that kind of improvement, especially coming towards the end of the session. And just for context, the traffic that Forzan El Nabi encountered was Bradley Vaughan, and he is one of the new signings for Pursuit, along with Bailey Frid coming on over from Mark 1 to join that team. So, Madison down. That is quite the statement. 219.3. He is now, what, 0.3 ahead?
And do you know what was really telling about that lap? There was no traffic in sight anywhere on the run. He found the only bit of clear track this side of Spa and Francorchamps, and he has now got himself a really commanding gap in terms of this one. If he takes the pole position, which I think he definitely wants a stamp on, he is in the best possible place, especially when you consider he'll have the likes of Richard Hampstead and Jake Maloney on the strategy cards trying to work out how's the best way to get to position 1 for him.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenging one for these drivers. Finding that last 0.3 in the last half of the session not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do, but Tyler Blackburn might be looking for an improvement here. One of the 4 Race on Oz cars in this session. Through the final couple corners, 26th is the place he has, and if he can just find a 10th, he might break into the top 20. It's a 220.904. He gains a couple of positions out of that, up to 22nd position ahead of Michael Taliancic.
We've just got a note as well that Brenton Hobson's just jumped into the top 10. He's one of the drivers who is the not-so-beneficiary of that. Tom Freer having a good run for Synergy right now in the, I would say, lilac-y style colour here on the brakes, into the right-left chicane, the final couple of corners. Is he going to get improvements on this lap to move back inside the top 10? He'll be looking for a 219 something. It's a 220.6 coming over the line then, and he, for the time being then, will stay in the 12th position, and he'll have to have one more go at it here and get things going. Neil Pearson gearing up for one more lap then, as he will dive down into the pits then as we get to that clutch section. That was a little bit frisky from Ethan Warren, just pushing the limits there, maybe almost a bit too much there in 4th place, and he'll certainly feel like he wants to be a nuisance today, and he definitely wants to find that key little area of pace.
Yeah, let's see if the time is legit then. Got a bit frisky, as you say, but we'll see if he brings it into the pits. No, he does not, and he's actually gearing up to start another lap. See if he can improve on that 4th place. If he wants pole position, he's going to have to find 6 or 7 tenths of a second. Christian Smart, meanwhile, has been bumped back into 36th position. See if he can improve on the time he has at the moment of a 2:21.453.
Well, we'll see. Final chicane, and does miss the apex by a good margin there going through. That's going to compromise the second part then to get that drive to the line. 21 he's trying to beat. It's a 21.4 though, despite the error there at the final section. So he's done pretty much okay there through that one to get that one all sorted, and he'll run it off wide and look for maybe one more chance to go through. So now you start to wonder who's got what. This is James Scott in the 088. He's the nearest challenger to Madison Down, but he is 0.3 of a second off the pace at the moment, and he will definitely want more. Philip Worley's just moved to 10th, and he's tied the time with Jordan Ross, who is he himself 1,000th off of Brett Loxton, 8th to 10th, split by 1,000th of a second at the moment. Scott going through the final corner then, and making that push, that short run to the start-finish line. Has he got enough to really improve? It's a 5.54. Yes, it is. It's actually going to be moved up a little bit, but he's halved the gap down to 1.5 tenths of a second. He gives himself a margin, does the Altus Esports driver, and he's saying, I'm still going to be there fighting for this race, and crucially, I can be really aggressive off the start if I want to. There's Dylan Rudd in the Premier Racing Team car trying to get some times, as there is Forzan El Nabi.
Yeah, let's see if all this improvement will work out for Forzan. He's set a personal best sector on this lap. Down on the brakes into Blanchimont. Fun fact about Christian Smart, by the way, that time that we just saw him ran was the exact same time that he already had, down to the thousandth. So it's getting difficult for him to find time here. And oh no, Forzan El Nabi, bit too hard into the bus stop chicane. He's going to bring that in. And, well, if he wants to get one more lap in, it's going to have to be very quick getting out there, as there was a bit of confusion between cars on the entry to the pits.
We'll keep an eye on Forzan, see if he can get to the line and put maybe one of the final laps in on the board. Glenn Postlethwaite is position number 7 at the moment. He definitely wants to try and disrupt here and be the leading Synergy car. He is at the moment, and well, how is he going to do? He's a hit or miss driver. Sometimes he has really good tracks, sometimes he's absolutely nowhere. This is looking like a really good track for Glenn Postlethwaite here, who's making the drive to the line. 2:19.3 is the time to beat. He puts a 2:20 flat down on the board. That puts him P5. That is sterling from Glenn Postlethwaite.
Excellent time, putting it up into the top 5 when it counts, but we still have to wait for that final salvo of laps to come in, and I just saw Forzan El Nabi coming out of the pits to start his final outlap. Robin Kirk, meanwhile, one of the representatives for simrigs.com DPR. Well, down in 32nd at the moment, his time, a 2:21.164, and he's got a teammate right in front of him in the former Reese Keane, but there's only a few hundredths separating them. If Robin Kirk can find any improvement at all, and, well, that was quite wide at Blanchimont, we'll see if that time is legit.
Well, here we go. Final chicane then for him, as he's going to be aggressive through the section. And how's his run off the exit? It's looking okay, but the time started to evaporate ever so slightly to 20.6. Where did that come from? He jumps about 15 places. He's P17 now on the board behind the 2 Race on Oz cars who take row 8 at this moment in time. So really well worked then to get that one going. So who's got what then in the final minute and a half here? Chris Coxhead, 23rd position. He will certainly want more in the 2:08. He had a really good Belle Isle, but he's searching to be anywhere near his quote-unquote Zuba teammate here, Brett Loxton, who's in 8th place.
Yeah, quite a big gap between those two Zuva cars, and Coxhead will want to find at least half a second or so to try and get a bit closer to Brett Loxton, but we shall see what he does in the final section of this lap. It's a nice smooth line through this section. What about Blanchimont? He doesn't seem to be pushing super hard through there, gets onto the curb nicely, very clean line, and he's taken the shortest line possible to the braking zone for the bus stop chicane. He gears that one up nicely. Look at that lovely early turn in. He wasn't pushing too hard through there at all. What kind of time is this going to be? 2:20.85 is the time he was on, and it's going to be a 2:20.895. Unfortunately, no improvement for Chris.
That's frustrating now. It's all about who's getting where. Brenton Hobson wants himself in the box seat behind Forzan El Narbi. They'll go through and get those lap times. It's the last lap time shots now here for the likes of Madison Down. Question becomes, who's going to be the last driver over the line in this session? Thomas Hinds will get one more. So will Andrew Mogridge. And I think Kenneth Latter is going to be just over the line in time for one more. The checkered flag now is out. We now hold with bated breath to see who has got what. Madison Down will be making that charge over to the line now. Has he got anything more than a 19.3 in the back pocket? It's looking good. It's looking really good. It's a 19.2. He found an extra 1/10 of a second, and he's now got himself that 3/10 cushion once again. This is brilliant work from Madison Down here in qualifying, and he's just been going purple upon purple upon purple on those runs. The likes of Tyler Blackburn is out there on a flyer at the moment here. Reese, and he's searching for times to move up out of 25th as Rob Bowden searches to go better than 27th.
Well, he's going to search for the pit entry, it seems. Andrew Dyson, meanwhile, currently in position 6. We'll see if he improves on this one. We're hearing from our director that it's looking good, but Andrew Dyson, no. He's elected to abandon that at the last second. Andrew Gilliam comes on in. What about James Scott then? Can he improve on that second place? He's got a 19.197 to beat. Across the line, there is no lap for Mr. Scott.
Just like that, invalidated lap time. Blackburn's pushed too hard. He slides the rears, and that lap is all but gone for the 947. Luke Rosella is searching for a bit of time now as well. Still got Forzan El Narbi out there on a lap time, but Rosella's going to dive down into the pits. Then he's not going to get anything going. Forzan looking okay at the moment, but he's pushing so hard there through at the campus corner, and I think he's using all of the road. Oh, you absolutely bet he is. He's absolutely railing this one against the throttle, trying everything he can to get as much drive here as he wants to go up onto the front row with his main championship rival, the championship leader, the reigning champion, the 10-time official series champion, Madison Down. On the brakes he goes into the final chicane. This is looking like he wants it. He needs it. He craves it at this stage as he looks to make this run for the line. All over the white line. 2:19.6 though is the time from Forzan El Narbi. He does bring it down, but not by enough on that run, with pretty much everybody over the line. Qualifying all score complete. We'll take a look now at the starting grid for you here, ladies and gentlemen. This is how things will stack up, and there he is on screen. Number 77, the championship leader, is on pole position for this one, and crucially on pole position on a time of a 2:19.197. He has blitzed the field here in qualifying, with second going to James Scott of the Altus Esports team. It will be third place for Forzan El Narbi, with fourth position going to Ethan Warren, the privateer, and Glenn Postlethwaite, the first of the Synergy cars, in fifth place. Andrew Dyson will start this one from sixth position, the first of the Simrigs.com DPR cars, with Andrew Gilliam in seventh. Couldn't improve on early times. And Brett Loxton, great work for him. He's starting to finally click with the car in eighth place. Jordan Ross and Philip Worley will be rounding out a very competitive top 10.
Very competitive indeed. It's Brenton Hobson and Thomas Hinds who line up together on row 6, with Tom Freer making it another Synergy Sim Racing car in 13th. Brian Borg alongside him for Premier Racing Team. Justin Wallace and Benjamin Smith, the Race on Oz teammates, starting alongside each other, with Robin Kirk and Damian Johnstone finding each other on row 9. Rounding out the top 20, Kenneth Latter for XG and Kane Hewson for Team Hyperdrive.
Good qualifyings from both of them. Dylan Rudd will start 21st with Neil Pearson alongside Chris Coxhead and Corey Shepherd, who had to abandon the lap times then midway through the session. 24th only for him. Tyler Blackburn and Kobe Jones will make up the 13th row of the grid, with Rob Bowden and Michael Taliancic there for pursuit in 28th place. Luke Rosella on debut will start in 29th in the 152, and he's got some very experienced company alongside him on row 15. That is Stephen Varga for United.
Yeah, good stuff there as Damon Stockton lines up alongside Sean Linsell, 31st and 32nd. Reese Keane, one of the final DPR cars, in 33rd, and he starts alongside our Split 2 winner, Bailey Frid, for pursuit. Bradley Vaughan, the new driver to pursuit alongside Frid, starts just behind. Jacob Knight alongside him. Christian Smart and Cameron Dance on the 19th row, and 40 car field rounded out by Andrew Mogridge and Damon Mulqueen, with one extra in the form of Ben Christensen, thanks to Bailey Frid joining this field. It's going to be quite an interesting race, this one. As you said, Sperry, a competitive top 10. Those are the temperatures. The track has come down by 1 degree, but I don't think that's going to make much difference.
I don't think it's going to make much difference either, and you have to also look at who's going to be in an advantage. Someone like Ben Christensen, for example, at the back, he couldn't put many times in early. He had to escape early on in the session and not take any more participation. He's got the last how far can I go challenge, but on these opening laps, this is such a short pitch straight around here as well, Reese. You look at those drivers in the further backs of the field. Some will have a very awkward start on an off-camber corner. Some will have an even more awkward start as they'll be right on the back straight.
Yes, indeed. I mean, this is going to be quite an interesting start for the drivers at the back. They have to navigate the last turn of the bus stop chicane, and you see that those drivers in the back half of the field are going to be starting uphill. So it's going to be all on them to try and get as good of a start as possible. That is Ben Christensen's view. I do not envy that.
No, I don't either, and I think Ben Christensen will not be very happy with what he sees from the back of the pack, but there is Madison Down, there is James Scott alongside him, and Forzan El Nabi, the nearest challenger to Madison Down in this championship. This is going to be all about who gets the best run off of the start then today, and this 250Ks will be a real test of who has what. Watch out for the likes of course, Ethan Warren and Glenn Postlethwaite. They definitely want to make their presence felt in a race like this. It's one of the best starts we've seen for Glenn Postlethwaite since Phillip Island all the way back in 2018. But 36 laps worth of racing. Let's get ourselves ready for racing action. Madison Down with control, and let's get ourselves underway then as they get themselves charging on towards Lassel's hairpin for the very first time. All clean it seems at this moment, but Madison has got the run that he wants. All nicely put through as that goes Ethan Warren around. He runs into the side of one of the Synergy cars. That's Brenton Hobson. I think he got a little bit of a tap from that. Hinsey there getting a little bit out of the way as well, going on through as they bottleneck up to Eau Rouge and Radion then for the first time. Work it out between yourselves, boys. A little bit of too wide in the middle. And there's someone going straight on. I think that was once again Ethan Warren, who's just trying to stay out of the way with the damage that he's got as they go on through. A little bit of 3 wide in the middle here as Gilliam has got himself a few mirrors here that he's trying to look through at this moment. And Postlethwaite, look at Dyson trying to go around the outside. They all have broken together.
They all outbroke each other, all going into Lacombe. Meanwhile, an incredibly close battle between Latta, Robin Kirk, Neil Pearson, Dylan Rudd, all of these drivers in one singular group. They all managed to get through Lacombe cleanly, amazingly enough. And Andrew Dyson clearing that slowdown. Oh no! Thomas Hinz almost getting wiped out there as Jordan Ross too slow.
Yes, and the top 3 have started to break away. Gilliam already up into 4th position. Brett Loxton now up into P5. What a great start the Zuva driver has had off of this one at the moment. Justin Wallace now inside of the top 10. We focus on the driver in 5th place here, Brett Loxton, trying to get a good run and just settle down into the rhythm. It has been a very, very tentative start for those who've run into some troubles. Justin Wallace here in 10th. He'll definitely want it. He'll definitely want to try and find a way past Hobbo 88 out there on track. But for the time being, he's playing the patience game. There is Kobe Jones. He's had a good start as well. He's now trying to find a way past Kane Hewson in the 912. And the number 2 has got the position made.
He has indeed, and there's been an issue for Reese Keane. He asked race control to take a look at an incident. It looks like he's been turned around at Brazil by Christian Smart. As we're hearing, Ethan Warren is out of the race. So I think a modem simulation replay is needed for this incident for Reese Keane, because it looked quite messy from what I can see. There were 5 cars involved in that one. Yep, there we go.
Ooh. There we go at Bruxelles. So there was one of the Exo Gaming cars on the outside going through, and it just concertinas up. Which way do you want to go? There's the car on the inside there of Christian Smart, who's ending up searching. Christensen doesn't hit the brakes hard enough, so ultimately everybody starts to skate around, and a bad day. It gets a little bit worse for Reese Keane, who will not be the keenest of these drivers at the moment. Back, though, to live coverage here as we focus on Glenn Postlethwaite and the major pack that's going on through. Look at this from the race on Oscar trying to get through. Benjamin Smith was thinking about Jordan Ross at Eau Rouge and Radion. That's not the best way to go through, but have ourselves a little bit of side-by-side action up the Kemmel. This is vintage Spa-Francorchamps that you're watching right now.
Absolutely is, and that draft is huge down the Kemmel Straight when you're right in the middle of the field. Thomas Hinz and Andrew Dyson side by side up into Lacombe, and Dyson just keeps it there. Hinzy backing out there on the inside very wisely, because you don't want to force the issue too early on. There goes Jordan Ross through on Benjamin Smith. That's the position lost for Benjamin and a position gain for Jordan, but no, he's going to try and get it back. Almost rear-end contact at Brazil. That was what took out Reese Keane just before. Jordan Ross thankfully escaping from that. Meanwhile, Philip Worley is starting to pressure Brett Loxton here. Oh, no.
Oh, there's a lock-up, though, going through Pouon, the double apex left-hander, and that one is a bit of trouble. But what is key, though, is that Philip Worley has had top 5 finishes before, but this is the best he's been this early in a race so far. But now you start thinking about the strategy game here in this one. The window opens around about now. Madison Down's your race leader, and he's cleared by 0.8 of a second at the front of this field, as you see all of these Holdens and Mustangs streaming on through then, as that was Kobe Jones having a little bit of a slide going through the middle of that. But your race leader here has now got his 1 second, and this might just look like one of those races where you need to be in position if you're going to make something happen. James Scott is desperately trying to cling on.
Yeah, using all of the road and then some at the exit of Blanchimont. There are the leaders, the top 3, top 4 going through right there as Gilliam passes the camera, and very close between the 2 synergy cars of Postlethwaite and Freer. Of course, pit stops aren't being thought about right now. I can English, certainly. A fastest lap from Madison Down on that second lap, 2:20.2. Not bad under race conditions, as here we go. Chris Coxhead has got a run on the 2:13 machine of Robin Kirk. Round the outside into La Source. Let's see how this one goes. Ooh, easy, boys.
It's on camber, you've got the help, and Coxhead, well, he is going to try and get through on Captain Kirk, so to speak, as he now puts 2 Simrigs.com DPR cars behind him then on the run up the hill. That's Neil Pearson in 20th position as he climbs up the hill and looks for more pace in the draft as they go on and look for place on place on place. And here is one of the Exto Gaming cars. That's Kenneth Latter here with Jordan Ross, and Ross is through and gains the place, almost 3 wide there, as Coxhead looks to try and get aggressive then with Mr. Blackburn. Not Mr. Blackburn, sorry, here, trying to get through with Mr. Smith, trying to get this one working. Benjamin J. Smith, not to be confused with Benjamin Smith, and ultimately not there for the time being, but down the hill into Bruxelles. Always easy to lock a front through this section, and they stay line astern.
Yeah, but not without another little look from Coxhead. It's an incredible line of cars right behind these guys, but Coxhead is looking to advance forward. Started in 23rd, remember, and up to 19th is right up ahead. Andrew Dyson on the back of Jordan Ross, and Dyson, well, he qualified extremely well, but that off at Lacombe on lap 1 has put him on the back foot. He wants to try and find his way back past the 143, but we know that Jordan Ross is a very tough customer, as is Thomas Hinz, who is the next car ahead of these guys.
It's a drive-through penalty that we are just hearing come in for us at the moment, and that drive-through penalty, just looking through race control, goes to Christian Smart. So that one not ideal at all, as they look for that good start, but That's going to be very, very awkward. Justin Wallace, though, in 10th position. He is the gatekeeper at the moment in the race on Oscar. He's got Brian Borg, though, for a bit of company. He's had a good start as the 017 of Brian Borg. He is the leading Premier Racing Team driver at this moment. Has he got enough on the brakes? Not just yet, but the train is forming behind. And you can see here how these battle packs are forming and starting to look like anyone who is in that pack might be thinking of, okay, early stop might be useful.
Yeah, probably, but you got to remember with the fuel range and the fact that you have to take 2 mandatory pit stops, the fuel burn around here, once again, is over 5 litres per lap, so it's going to make quite a bit of difference what you decide to do. I would expect the first drivers to come in probably around lap 10-ish, somewhere around there, if they want to try and make it an equal amount of stints throughout the race, equalise the number of laps, rather, as, oh, hang on, side-by-side through Eau Rouge, that's Sean Linsell and Cameron Dance, and they're going to trade positions again, it looks like.
Not a guarantee yet. They're going to go up the Camel, and I think they may just have a bit of company behind. As well, hello, nose in the middle. Bane Fred wants to join in, the Super Split 2 winner. There's someone serving a slowdown just in front of them. That's going to be a bit awkward going through. Trying to work out who that is. That looks like it was Vaughan. No, sorry, that's Luke Rosella, who was dropping down the timing stand, so not ideal at all, but they're still side by side here. Cam Dance, he's not giving this one up. No, sir. He's going to have to go the long way around here at Bruchel's corner. This is a tough way to hold this one out, and he's out on the marbles, on the dirty stuff, and all of a sudden he's having to defend another place here down the inside of Jackie Ickx, and he's not got all of it here. He'll continue to fight all the way to Pouron.
Yeah, but it looks like Bailey Frid got a slightly better exit there. Dance is going to have to slip into line behind him, but Sean Linsell back up at the front of that pack and navigating those foibles very nicely was Sean Linsell. It looks like everyone here looking to try and make a move at some point. Meanwhile, further up ahead, I've been looking at the battle with Justin Wallace and Brenton Hobson. Brenton Hobson has made a couple of mistakes on this lap, but then Justin Wallace has made a few more.
Exactly. Look at Tom Freer, though, for the moment. He is all over the back of Postlethwaite, and in fact, he'll use a cheeky track extend as well to go alongside with that. It's very, very cheeky, almost as cheeky as going to Nando's. But at this stage, go to look at this. Brian Borg down the inside. He's searching for a top 10. But for the time being, it's not guaranteed at this stage. Has he got to drive off the exit? We look across. Is there anyone there? Nope, doesn't look like it. Yes, position main, top 10 there. And all of a sudden, time for freight training here. 033. Here comes Damian Johnstone down the inside. Lock up from Borgie. And now Johnstone might just sneak the top 10 as in comes the 41. The first taker is Andrew Dyson.
Okay, so that is quite early onto the lane for Dyson, but it makes sense. He wants to try and get his race back on track. He's out of position. That was a very firm brake application for Brian Borg. I think it took Johnstone a little bit by surprise, and it's equalised them all on the run down the Kemmel Straight. Johnston looks like he might have the draft. Have a look at Jordan Ross behind. He's going to make that move on Thomas Hins as we just come up to Lacombe in time. So close to locking brakes, a lot of these guys, a few of them going a bit over the edge, but that is move done for Jordan Ross. He is up into 13th place now.
He is, and Jordan Ross is making good progress in the 143 machine. Down on the brakes through Bruchel's corner here on lap 5 here of this race, and this is looking quite nice at this stage. The front four are all pretty equidistant from each other at the moment. 1.5 seconds for Madison down. Fulton El Nabi's 9/10 off of James Scott, and Andrew Gillian's a further 1.4 off of that as well. So they're running their own races, it seems, at the moment. Worth noting, though, that Postlethwaite and Freer in 7th and 8th, they are actually closing onto the back of Worley here, who is falling off of the back of Brett Loxton. So early pace aside, looks like Glenn Postlethwaite here and Tom Freer and all of the Synergy drivers have a good mid-pace stint.
Yeah, they might have set it up for the long game, and proven, of course, as well by Jordan Ross here, who's starting to look for a way through on Justin Wallace. This is going to be an interesting move down at the chicane if he can pull this one off. The battle between Worley, Postlethwaite and Freer stays stagnant for now, but There is Jordan Ross with the draft. Let's see how he goes into Blanchimont. It was a bit more of a committed entry from him. Justin Wallace going a little bit wide. So that's given Ross the extra tenth or so he needs to fire it up the inside into the bus stop. And he is through by the time they get into the turn-in point. Nicely done.
Very, very good move. Thomas Hinds finds himself on the outside looking in a little bit. Here's Kane Hewson, though, in 21st. He's got Kobe Jones just in front in 20th place. There's another taker. It's another Simrix.com DPR car. It looks like Kirk, who's come down into the pits, as well as, I believe, someone else there. That could be Pearson diving down in. So here's Kobe Jones's move then on Kane Hewson. He looks to try and line this one up then for the inside, and he leaves it late to get in the mirrors of Kane. And, well, it seems like one driver looking for a good run compared to another. That's a position made.
Yeah, textbook move there from Kobe Jones, as I'm seeing Philip Worley now getting passed by Glenn Postlethwaite into Lacombe, and that is move done for Posy. And Worley just trying to hold on as best he can here. He is now the meat in a synergy sandwich. Johnstone, meanwhile, pressuring Brian Borg for 10th place. Can Jamie Johnstone jump back into the top 10? And can he drag Jordan Ross with him?
Well, here's the key right now. If Damien Johnstone does get this move sorted, he's got some side-by-side. Bailey Fritz still going at it with Cam Dance as he tries to up and under it here for 28th and 29th position at this moment. If Damien Johnstone can get past Brian Borg, then it's very clear to me to see that Synergy are having a good run. They would have at that point here, Reese, they would have 4 cars inside the top 10. Suddenly, Worley's having to play the defensive car because there's Tom Freer in the 707 car trying to find himself an opportunity to join his teammate Glenn Postlethwaite in making the move.
And I don't know if you noticed, but coming into Farnier, Philip Worley went really deep and almost rear-ended Postlethwaite. So he's going to have to be careful here. The tyres of the DPR car obviously passed their best, while the Synergy cars are just coming on song now. So down into the final section of the lap once again. Worley thinks he might have a bit of a chance here versus Postlethwaite if he can get the draft lined up, but he's got to think about Tom Freer behind as well. No change for position down in the braking zone, though. We'll see if he decides to go for the pits like his teammates. No, he does not.
He's on very much a routine strategy, is Philip Worley, compared to his teammates who are a little bit further down the order. Jordan Ross has got through on Damien Johnstone now, so he's into 11th place on the road, and every position right now is being micromanaged up and down the order here as they go on through. Do not keep away from those at the front of the field. We haven't seen too much of them because they have had a couple of gaps here and a couple of gaps there, but this is James Scott and Forzan El Nabi, 2nd and 3rd, and they have a bit of company behind. Andrew Gilliam's been putting in some hard yards to get back within 1 second.
He has indeed, and looks like the top 4 in general breaking away as Freer, yes, there he goes, up the outside of Philip Worley. There we go. Nicely done.
Easy pickings then. That one a nice run. And there is the Simrigs.com DPR 062 at it. Here's Neil Pearson against Justin Wallace, who's going to try and hold it around the outside of Lacoum. Inside for Malmedy here. The big right-hander, but again, outside track is being held by Pearson. And I think he can just try and cover across, shift onto the inside. That's lovely play there from the 062. Nothing Wallace can do. That's a great move.
Yeah, certainly. He's going to try to find a way through still, but he's going to have to take a bit of a break for now, running a little bit wide through Jackie X and giving him back the position, Neil Pearson, right there. Meanwhile, that 3rd and 4th place battle, 2nd as well, James Scott and Forzan El Nabi, equidistant, roughly, with Andrew Gilliam. Madison Down has no trouble at all up in the lead. He's stretched the gap out to 2.5 seconds now over James Scott. And really, you got to think, these 250k races are where Madison Down and the wider Trans-Tasman team really shine. They work out the strategy. They're able to play those pit stops.
They certainly are, and they give themselves so many options at the front of the field when they do build a gap early like they have done here. They're going on to lap 8 of 36 here today. So lap 9 is your 1/4's distance here through this one. It's gone by in a blink of an eye so far. There is Brian Borg in 10th place. He's got Jordan Ross there in 11th just behind, and we're on board with Jordan Ross right now, trying to see if he can get himself through inside that top 10 for the first time in this race today. He'll be on the brakes through the Lassel's hairpin turn number 1. In comes Chris Coxhead, and he's followed by a teammate there in Kobe Jones.
Righto, so let's see what they can do from here. Lap 8, so it's going to be longer second and third stints for both of those guys. We'll see how that plays out towards the end as the rest of the field stays out. That was a very bad run there from Brian Borg, rear-ended by Jordan Ross up at the top of the hill. Just got on the brakes, I think, a little too much, or maybe got crossed up through Radion. Either way, Jordan Ross is going to get on through on Brian Borg, though not without a slight bit of bumper damage.
Well, he lifted, did Brian Borg, and ultimately he now splits more of these Synergy drivers, as that will be another little fight. Look at Forzan, though. He's right on the back of James Scott, and he's going to be feeling like he's losing a little bit of time now here, just being a little bit bogged down and frustrated. He's got to find a way through and try and get himself that place. So through the left-handers of Pouron, they come along, second, third, and fourth place. But now you start wondering here, if you're Forzan, is this going to be a damage limitation race? Or is this a, I'm going to try and do some wizardry on the strategy, get myself track position, and try and hold on the same way I did on a legendary defense at Belle Isle?
You know, I don't think that the right way to go for Forzan is to play it safe here. Of course, he does hold on to that slim margin with Madison down just up ahead of him, but I feel like at this point he does need to attack. He does need to try and work out an alternate strategy to try and beat the Altus and TTR cars. That's all he can really do at this stage.
That's all he needs to do, but he's now got to try and focus on the car in front first and foremost, and that's the 088 of James Scott, who led the championship after round 1 back when he was in the Evolution Racing team. There's been a lot of chopping and changing over the course of this season, of drivers here and drivers there moving about their teams, but James Scott knows what he needs to do, and he's running a pretty good race of things at the moment in the position that he is in right now, and he knows better than anybody else that he is quite comfortable being in that second position as they all get good runs here. And if you get a good run now, if you're Mr. El Nabi, you might have a chance to really pick something up. It's 3/10 as they enter Eau Rouge and into Radion Corner. This could be a place where maybe James Scott will be looking at the defensive side of things, because El Nabi will be trying to charge on through, but so good through Radion is James Scott that there's no way that Forzan El Nabi's close enough to make this one happen.
Yeah, James Scott straight-lined it. Oh, whoa. Forzan very close on the brakes. He really fired it into Lacombe there. Almost rear-ended James Scott, but okay, catch my breath a little bit. James Scott got the exit because he straight-lined across the curb at the top of the hill. El Nabi took a bit more of a conventional line around the curb. So I think if El Nabi wants to get that run, he needs to try and push the limits there up at the top of the hill, but you can tell he is just raring to go for this second position.
A lot of drivers in this field are raring to go, one of whom is Glenn Postlethwaite, who is catching hand over fist compared to Brett Loxton in 5th place. Look at the gap. It's down to 1.2 seconds now, and Postlethwaite is dragging Tom Freer along with him for the ride. So all of a sudden, Brett Loxton, who was having a very quiet Sunday night's drive here in terms of what he was looking for, bike shop he spends in his spare time, or for his job actually, he does Brett Loxton, but ultimately he needs more than a pedalo to get himself closer or further away from Glenn Postlethwaite.
Yeah, Brett is trying his best here to eke out the gap. He's got 1.3 seconds back to Glenn, but in terms of times, Postlethwaite took about 3/10 out of him on the last lap, so see what Posy can do from here. As we've said, the Synergy cars seem to be really good in the middle of the stint. Meanwhile, between Scott and El Nabi, it is just as intense as before, but El Nabi's still not quite close enough to make a move. I'll compare times as they come across the line. For James Scott, 222.0 and a 221.9 for Forzan El Nabi, so it's just a matter of time at the moment, I think. Let's see how they do down the straight.
Hobo88 dives into the pits. Brenton Hobson then decides it is his time. Neil Pearson will follow him on in from what was 17th position at the time. And Dylan Rudd decides to come in with Corey Shepherd. The Premier Racing Team cars then on a strategy right now. They believe it's their time to dive down and make the
lane this lap. That might be the signal to the leaders that, well, maybe it's time for us to think about it too. Of course, they would have worked out their own strategies beforehand and will be driving to their own numbers, but drivers like Forza El Narbi will be shifting their focus a bit more micro than macro, thinking about what James Scott does.
Exactly, it's all about who's doing what. They can't control Madison down at the front of the field at United, so next question is going to be, what can we do? Well, we can take second position. We can have damage limitation. We're going to take a little Motum Simulation replay look, though. Going to go back down the pack. This is with Thomas Hinds, and in fact, we'll go even further back. This is Reese Keane, who's not had the best day in the world, but as he tries to put the power down on the exit, it looks like he's okay for the time being. But we'll look at turn 1 at Lasso's hairpin, see if anything goes wrong. This is Christian Smart, who's on the brakes, on the brakes, on the brakes, and in towards that opening turn number 1. Remember, these two have come together already right now, and it looks like there was some more dramas as we look at things continuing.
Yeah, so that's the second time that they've come together in this race, and it looks like it's happened down at down the Kemmel Straight. It looked like a bit of a mistake there from Reese King coming up across the top of the hill, as I've seen Forza El Narbi pit as we were live, but it's down at Lacombe that it happened, and Keane almost tried to go defensive, but there goes Christian Smart up the inside. Keane turns in, and, well, I don't know about that one, to be honest. They kind of both went into the corner, but I feel like Keane turned in a bit early.
I think Reese Keane was hoping that he was going to get some good drive. As you can see here, he's going to come off the curb and look for the inside, and there's a car there, and it doesn't matter which way you look at it. There's a car on your inside. There's not much you can do except have to wait for him to turn in. So that's going to be awkward. There is Forza El Narbi in the pits. Jordan Ross has followed in, as is Damian Johnstone. I believe that's Kenneth Latter in there. Rob Bowden in on the lane as well. So a lot of takers in. Bailey Frid decides it's time to make the stop. There is Andrew Dyson. Now this is really key, where Dyson's going to come out in all of this. He pitted 6 laps ago. He was the first real taker onto the lane, and look at where he comes out, right from Forza El Narbi, and in fact he's going to leapfrog.
Hello. So that early pit stop from Andrew Dyson really helping him out there as we go on into Eau Rouge and Radillon, but a slight bit of oversteer coming up the hill from Dyson. That's going to give the advantage right back to Forza El Narbi, and he's got tyres that are a few laps fresher as well. Very late call there from El Narbi to pull out of the draft. That was almost contact between the two of them, but it looks like that is going to be move exchanged once again. I'll just compare pit stop times quickly. Andrew Dyson, as we see Latter and Hobson side by side on the run up to Lacombe. I think Hobson just a little bit braver on the brakes, and see if he can get Latter maintaining side-by-side action. That's why I love this set of corners. You can do this. It's absolutely fantastic to see them giving each other room, and Latter just moving up ahead of Hobson. But Andrew Dyson, the first pit stop, he was only stationary for 12 seconds, so we should expect him to pit again really soon and go for that long final third stint. El Narbi's pit stop time, meanwhile, double, 24.2 seconds.
Tells you all you need to know. Kenneth Latter coming out to the pits does get ahead of Brenton Hobson. That will be something that the Exto Gaming crew will be quite happy about at this moment in time. But is this the domino, the chain reaction, which sees everyone come in? Chris Coxhead's pit stop has put him ahead of Jordan Ross then on the road. Madsen Down stayed out, but Andrew Gilliam now has decided it's his time to dive down in on the lane. Lap 12 of 36 then at effectively the 1/3 stage, and Philip Worley will follow in from 7th position. There's someone else behind, Brian Borg, coming in to make the stop. The Bryborg himself looking for some good stops. Justin Wallace also wants in on the lane,
as does Sean Linsell. So pit lane becomes a hive of activity once more. James Scott still in his dogged pursuit of down as Cameron Dance joins the party in the pit lane. El Narbi is going to get all of these guys as they're all stationary. Who is exiting the pits at the moment? It looks like no one. So Just coming out now is Andrew Gilliam. He was stationary for 26 seconds, and that means that El Nabi has gapped him. Dyson's got him too.
Has.
Whoa.
And here's Thomas Hinds having himself a little look down the inside of Benjamin Smith. And Smith's going to try and fight this one on the outside. The back steps out, and there's no way to make that one through. So Thomas Hinds has to play the waiting game once again. Benjamin Smith has to play the waiting game, as these are the drivers who have yet to come down in and make that pit stop. At the moment, some great work being done. Here's some side-by-side. Oh, Kobe Jones is going to abandon ship, and he'll take a slow down for his troubles, and look at how many positions he's going to lose. And that's why you don't go too wide, Mr. Jones, up through Eau Rouge and Radion.
Yeah, exactly. You're traveling at such a high speed that there's not much margin for error up there. Losing the position there to Justin Wallace is, oh my goodness, Wallace and Shepard going side by side, coming into Lacombe and just sorting themselves out on the exit.
Certainly are, as there is your race leader, Madison Down. He may decide to go long on the stint. He may like the tyres here in this one. He's just increasing the gap time and time again. It's 5.2 seconds, but no, race leader is in on the lane then at the end of lap number 12. James Scott has decided, you know what, I'll follow you through. It seems like it's the right call to make, and it's pretty much on the line that we've got. Brett Loxton, though, will assume control of the race leaders. Postlethwaite pits, but Freer doesn't.
Right, so splitting the strategy between the Synergy guys, that's interesting. What about Thomas Hinds then? He's going to come on in, so is Benjamin J. Smith and Kane Hewson, as well as we're starting to see Michael Taliancic go long as well.
Excuse me, got a lot of time going in. Stephen Varga there is looking to go on through. Bradley Vaughan, haven't seen too much of him in 11th place. He's down on the lane right now in the 100 car, but it's now a case of who comes out where. We expect Madison Down to effectively, quote-unquote, take the race lead. Forsen El Nabi will be the next car over the line. In fact, there he is going through, and Madison Down, he's going to get the nice slingshot there through on the pits, but crucially, behind now will go James Scott. But where is Madison in comparison? We look to the side, and he is ahead.
Yeah, he's ahead of Forsen El Nabi there, but El Nabi with tyres now up to temperature. He'll be on the attack on this particular lap, and Down still going to get used to those new tyres coming straight out of the pits. Of course, we're going to have to... oh, hang on a minute. Chris Cox said trying side-by-side with Robin Kirk through Eau Rouge. That is never going to work, but maybe this will work for him. Robin Kirk overshooting a bit. Yes, indeed, that will work, and that's going to be a slowdown, I think, for Robin Kirk. So Coxhead's going to go through nice and easy on the run up to Lacombe. Or is he? Robin Kirk isn't really slowing down.
No, he's going to have to give it up there, and that is a good move from Chris Coxhead, who got a forced error there out of the driver in front, as here is Andrew Gilliam, who has mirrors full of Andrew Dyson, which is not quite what he wants to be dealing with right now. Dyson, you believe, here with the long final stint that he's going to have to do, is going to be in the fight with Loxton, Freer and Taliancic out there on circuit. We'll take a look at the Motum replay, see how this one all fanned out. You can see some side-by-side through Bruchels, and just like that, it's a case of, nope, I'm going to have to be patient. So getting the inside there at turn number 5 out on track, that is, of course, Malmedy, but then having the inside just needs another corner to consolidate the position, and that's how you do it on the inside down the hill.
Yeah, and parked it on the apex for good measure as well. Well done there from Andrew Gilliam. We take another look back from him at Andrew Dyson. So now, oh, hold up a minute. Already pulling a second on Dyson, and that has something to do with going beyond track limits like that, I think, as Brett Loxton jumps on into the lane. Tom Freer maintains the race lead now. Michael Taliancic is going to get promoted to second.
Half distance will be scored at lap 18 out of 36. That much doesn't need to be said, but for the time being anyway, just the one taker onto the lane. So this is where Glenn Postlethwaite is. He's stuck behind Robin Kirk, who's jumped in the stops after the early take, and now he's going to work this one out down the inside. Remember, he is fighting with Loxton for position, and there's Chris Coxhead just in front of that, but he's slightly deep through the corner. That's going to check everybody up here, Will Posey, so that's going to be a little bit awkward, but where is Brett Loxton going to come out? Oh, spinner, 696, Damon Stockton around, and is he able to get this one going again? Well, he's got to work it out now before he gets himself hit. Bang! There's the contact, and that could be the safety car.
Yeah, I think Stockton... Jacob Knight is requesting an escape on in-sim chat, and I think he'll be very unhappy with Stockton for that, because Stockton pulled forward onto the racing line to recover. So we shall see how that works out for race control. Both of those cars still at a standstill. They are absolutely totaled. Here's what happened to Stockton then. Looks like it was on the run-up to the chicane, fighting with Corey Shepard, and I think that's Justin Wallace as well, alongside two Race on Oz cars, as the safety car has been called out on track. And side by side for them through Blanchimont. Let's see what happened to him there. Oh, it started right on the exit of Blanchimont with the Race on Oz car. And of course, he comes to a stop right in the middle of the circuit, the tanked SRT car, and it looked like that was Rosella as well, having to take avoiding action. And Jacob Knight, well, he went for the racing line, and Stockton started moving forward.
Oh, he thought he was clear. He had a little bit of a gap. Jacob Knight has every reason to be quite upset with that one, because you're always told to hold your brakes if you're unsure, and he just took the wrong choice. But we do have a safety car here in your SCOPS event. Now, this is going to be quite key. They're going to try and pick up the leader, but Tom Freer is going to dive down into the pits and effectively try and get a free stop out of this one. Michael Taliancic, I think, will try and do the same right now here in terms of this, and they could really gain an advantage out of this one by having this safety car and diving down in, getting the service and getting back out and going again when drivers cannot go out there and attack for position out there in this one. So this really could play into their hands. But
Down's coming back in.
Madison Down, Forza and Navi, Madison Down's going to get his second stop out of the way. He's thinking about maybe coming to the end here from lap 15.
All of them are coming in. Madison Down is in. El Nabi, Scott, Gilliam and Dyson have all jumped into the lane. Loxton stays out as we see Worley and Ross jump back into the pits to top up their tank.
So now this is awkward. So now you've got a one-stop versus two-stop. Oh, sorry, you've got the two-stoppers who've already got their stops out of the way against those who are already there. And now you start to feel, well, okay, who takes the lead? It's Brett Loxton now who leads this race outright.
All right, and Brett Loxton is going to assume it behind the safety car. Got the Race on Oz car for company as well. So we'll have to wait and see how this all shuffles out. The leaders are now out, and oh, surprise, surprise. Looks like Forzan El Nabi still ahead of James Scott, and where is Madison Down? Where is he?
A few cars ahead in the train. He's in fourth position.
Yes,
and Cox, Postlethwaite, Latta, and Johnstone, who stayed out, have got ahead. So Forzan is not in a good position. He's going to have to make places off of the start here. And now you start to wonder here from those of the leaders who came down in. They know what they've got to do. They've got to do these laps. And I'm pretty sure here in terms of this, they're going to be clutching at that fuel gauge and going, well, we need to hit a number here today.
Yeah, it's going to be a fuel race. It's way more than halfway to go, and I think the vast majority of drivers are going to have to take one more stop here tonight. So everything that we were just talking about strategy has been thrown out the window, and we're just winging it. We're just trying to find this out along with you all watching.
Well, that seems about right, so we'll all try and work this one out, but Brett Loxton has the lead. It's Benjamin Smith in second and Tom Freer in third. Madison Down is fourth position. He's the first of the drivers who have taken two stops in this race, with Chris Coxhead in fifth and Glenn Postlethwaite in sixth position. Kenneth Latta for Exeter Gaming is seventh, Damien Johnstone eighth, Forzan El Nabi ninth, and James Scott rounds out the top 10 at this moment in time. So in terms of some drivers who have made some good places today in this race, everybody is trying to get themselves a good run. But talk about drivers who are having good runs. Michael Taliancic back out and away in 13th place after his first stop. Likes of Luke Rosella now up into 15th place. And this is a very, very shuffled up field. And this is where the safety cars come in. And for those who look at this and say, why do we have a manual safety car in terms of this series? It's for reasons like this why we drag out these sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben Christensen right here is the biggest mover in the field. He's gained 20 positions. Remember, he started dead last. So even despite the contact that he faced early in the opening laps, he's managed to make his way more than halfway through the field, which is great to see. But yes, these safety car periods, the perfect opportunity here for drivers to catch their breath and have a bit of a think about how they're going to approach the rest of this race.
And of course, there are opportunities here that safety cars do bring out more safety cars, and you start wondering about track position and whether you're able to break away and get exactly what you want out of it. So now it becomes a case of which strategy works out quite nicely. You've got to build a gap, you've got to build a margin, but at exactly the same time, how many places are you dropping down by not taking that second stop? And you feel that those who maybe were staying out long, the likes of Tom Freer and Michael Taliancic, they effectively had to go onto a first stop before the safety car and stay out effectively because they left it so long they had to pit under safety car conditions.
Yes, so it's going to be one more stop under green flag conditions for them. So once again, it's a question of how long the drivers who have already made their second stop are going to be stopping for the final time, because we've got to remember it's over half of the race, and I'll just break it down quickly. 111 litres is the fuel tank, and you need 198 litres or somewhere around that to get through the entire race. If you start off with a full tank, that means that you take a total of 87 litres over your 2 stops. But of course, you can put whatever amount you like in the tank as Taliancic comes in to top it up, and it looks like Jordan Ross is joining him.
Ooh. That's something really interesting. So if those drivers who have only made one stop come in now, they get their second stop out of the way, they will cycle to the back of the pack, but they're getting their pit stop done under the safety car condition. So this is a cheeky way of getting that second stop out and away without really losing too much.
Yeah, and if you pit now, you can actually make it home on a full tank. Maybe you might have a margin of about a lap's worth of fuel or so. But I think as long as you pit on lap 17, you'd be home free, because at 5.5 litres a lap, you'd still have to fuel save a bit though. I mean, everywhere you look, there's just one more difficulty that pops up.
Well, the difficulty is for all of your championship contenders who pitted on lap 15, they feel like they've got a good fuel economy here to get themselves 5 litres a lap. Now, what we know from Henry King in Super Split 2 on a cold track was that he ran out of fuel coming to the line, and he had to do the last lap with 4 litres worth of fuel. So this is going to be a really awkward position for the likes of Down, El Nabi, Scott, Gilliam, who are all fighting for the championship, and they'll all be whispering at their fuel gauge going, "Fuel, come on, I need some."
Yeah, and quite a bit too. It's going to require some deft driving style in order to extract the most out of these cars on a fuel economy run. Of course, when they get going again off the start, they're going to have the benefit of the draft, and everyone's going to be lifting and braking a bit early on a restart anyway, so that's an opportunity for them to save an extra couple milliliters.
There is your race leader in the 209 HJR Zuva racing car. It is Brett Loxton here who has control, with Benjamin Smith in the race on Oscar. Just behind him in second position, Tom Freer is currently in position number 3. The incident, I believe, is just about being cleared. We may be going to green flag running, but every lap they spend under the safety car, it favours those who have made 2 stops already and are trying to save and clutch it through this section to get themselves home and to get themselves dry around this place. So we'll see who has the best advantage. It sounds, at least for the time being, nothing coming over from race control, but we might just be looking at this one here, Reese, going, well, it's going to be racing resuming this lap that we're going to be finding. So Brett Loxton will have control of the field for the first time in a long time.
Indeed, he will, and he's got the number 91 of Benjamin Smith right on his bumper too. Just before we hit the green flag, drivers yet to make their second stop. Loxton and Smith up at the front, then Freer, then we got Chris Coxhead, Glenn Postlethwaite, Kenneth Latter, Damian Johnstone, Hins, Linsell, Rosella, Varga, Hewson, and Christensen. Those are all the drivers that have yet to take their second stop at the moment.
So they have got themselves work to do, but Brett Loxton will hold the field up and hold the field up and hold the field up some more. There's not that much bunching going on. James Scott's got to get their PDQ, as does Andrew Gilliam, and this is going to cause a few issues here as drivers will think that they're going. So now what do you think here? Brett Loxton is holding them up for an incredibly long time, and he's going to choose to go, and he decides now that he wants it through the chicane. He gets a great run through that final bit of chicane, and let's get back to green flag running here. Lap 17, and already we're seeing a couple of changes here and there. Was that likes of Damien Johnstone and co making places? Now that's going to be quite interesting. Postlethwaite's coming in for that stop right now, so that would be why all the positions were changing on screen. Of course, you can't overtake before the start-finish line. It's a little different when someone's coming in on the lane, but here is Madison Down. He wants through on Tom Freer quickly here. 707 versus 77 right now, and Madison, remember, is on exactly the same tyres as Tom Freer, but they pitted on the same lap with one stop left to be made for Tom Freer.
Yes, indeed. So, Madison Down up to the inside of Tom Freer as we see side by side. That's Damien Johnstone getting by Kenneth Latta, and Forzan El Nabi right on the back of this. He wants to try and get past both of these guys, but Latta parking it on the apex to try and keep the likes of El Nabi, Scott and Gilliam behind, formerly second, third and fourth, as El Nabi continues chasing him down the hill.
Down the hill they go in 8th position. You needed to make places early here if you were Forzan El Nabi, but you also have to be very mindful of the fuel. They're going to be thinking about, okay, how did that safety car change things in terms of this race? Those drivers at the front, they're going to be aggressive. Look at actually how Madison Down is having to drive to a number. He's already lost himself a whole second to Freer, Smith and Loxton on this lap already, which is very untoward in terms of the way that this one's going. In fact, it's 0.7 of a second, but there is Kane Hewson right now. He's got himself a few mirrors full of DPR cars there just behind, and that's not going to be quite ideal in these stages, but it's been a nice calm restart, and it's been a very nice run of things here as they look to go through. Half distance score complete at the end of the next lap.
Yes, indeed, and Hewson just getting out of the throttle at Stabilo as we see Brett Loxton continue to jet away in that race lead. Madison Down continuing to hang back from Tom Freer here. I think he's just keeping it in the draft range. He doesn't want to actually make the move yet. He just wants to make sure that he has that bit of extra speed down the straight so he can afford to lift and coast.
He knows what he needs to do, and he's got to do it very, very astutely. As there's Forzan El Nabi stuck by Kenneth Latta and the Exto Gaming car. James Scott's perspective of this, he sees what's right in front. Behind we look from Kenneth Latta, who's now got three very, very aggressive drivers behind. There's the look down the inside, and you know what? He wants none of it. He'll let two of them go through, as James Scott now is going to have to fight this one on the exit. Kenneth Latta battles on back on the on-camber turn one.
This is brilliant from Kenneth Latta. He's really sticking it to these guys. He's ahead into Eau Rouge, but James Scott's going to go for it through Radion and just clear him. And that means that Andrew Gilliam's going to have an opportunity here as well. Gets alongside off the circuit, but then he has the draft on James Scott, and he's going to flick on through, almost making contact with Latta. Oh, no, contact. Just a little bit of contact between the two of them at high speed, and he's going to try and fight it as James Scott. Andrew Gilliam trying round the outside, and barely enough room left at all, but he is through.
He's pushed him a little bit wide. Great work. In the meanwhile, Tom Freer is up in second position. He's through on Benjamin Smith to get that one done. There is Thomas Hins diving down the inside now of Kenneth Latta, who's getting freight trained at the moment. His teammate Sean Linsell is in there as well, but Hinsey ain't going to mince as he goes through and into the top 10. He goes, but Benjamin Smith's got this one back, and Madison Down's going to pick this one up. So Tom Freer drops 2 places just like that. Was that a redress or a slowdown? It looks more like a slowdown here. He's going right to the outside here, trying to work this one all out.
Oh, that's a big shame for Tom Freer. All those positions lost, and he has got Gilliam behind him now. Madison Down on the back of Benjamin Smith in the Harvey Bay Auto Glass Mustang. Meanwhile, Brett Loxton is leaving these guys in the dust, but I think Madison now is thinking, these cars are dropping like flies in front of me. I think I might have to start putting the power down, otherwise El Nabi is going to get me.
Exactly, that's the key. Forza El Nabi is only a couple of seconds behind. 2 seconds exactly is the margin between Down and El Nabi at this stage in this race. But Benjamin J. Smith is looking like he's going to be a thorn in the side as they go on through. Gilliam is chasing down here Tom Freer, who's back up to speed in 7th position. And now the former teammates, they've got to work this one out on the brakes. There's the lunge down the inside. Tom Freer gives him room. Of course, the respect between those two for what they've done. And Andrew Gilliam then jumps up another place. But here comes Madison Down against Benjamin J. Smith into the Lassalle's hairpin at turn number 1. Benjamin's going to try and fight this one back here on the outside line. And you know what? He's got a great drive off the exit here, and Chris Coxhead's got the box seat.
Wow, what a great view Coxhead has of this, but it is Smith with the advantage into the corner. Let's see if Down can get him back when they come onto the Kimmel straight. Bumper to bumper at the top of the hill, and Down just slips on through as they come through the Kimmel corner itself. That flat-out right-hander, he has got the run down the inside, but I don't think he'll be far ahead enough by the time they get to the braking zone. Look at Damien Johnstone behind. He's just nabbed Coxhead as Down nabs Smith.
Wow, some great driving there by Damien Johnstone as well as Madison Down, who's now up into 2nd position as they're starting to trip over each other here. Forzan's on the back of this. He's got to get through. That's Christensen who's gone around as down the inside Houston starts looking. So Ben Christensen's torrid day gets a little bit worse as we look at Hobson now in 18th place, trying to get himself through on what is going to be one Mr. Kane Houston. He's not finding it, but dramas for Ben Christensen, who will be very frustrated with today.
Modem simulation replay then. Christensen was at the head of this train and Brian Borg going through on him, but oh my goodness, they really concertinaed up. But that was the contact between Borg and Christensen that sent him around. In other news, Philip Worley has been given a drive-through penalty for some more contact. Maybe Brian Borg has one coming his way.
Maybe he does, but look at Chris Coxhead right now. He's in a bit of trouble there as we look at these packs, which are really starting to get a little bit dicey at this moment in time. We know that Forza El Nabi here is being held up a little bit by Chris Coxhead and Damien Johnstone and Benjamin J. Smith. They've got to try and work a way through here, do the United team, whilst also saving the fuel, which Madison does know how to do, as he's got probably one of the lightest feet in all of the field. But now you start working it out then on the brakes into the final section. Big late lunge then from Forza El Nabi, and that is the position made, and there's not much you can do if you're Chris Coxhead. That is a very, very astute move.
That was very opportunistic from Forzan El Nabi, and just as I predicted, Brian Borg has just been given a black flag by race control for that contact with Ben Christensen, and wasting no time getting into the pits to serve that penalty, though not without grazing the wall on the way in. And look at all the positions he's going to lose.
Oh my word, look at this train. This is a battle for an 18th, 17th place. Kane Houston is bottlenecking this one all the way back to that DPR car at the very back of that train. How many positions back is that? Let's have a look then. It's 33rd. This is a 16-car fight.
This is insanity right now, and Kane Houston right up at the front of it. Look at them all go through Eau Rouge, one by one by one by one by one. Incredible stuff, and all of these guys wanting to be at the front of that train, but easier said than done as Hins makes his way through on the 269 of Kenneth Latter.
Yeah, comfortable move, needed to be done, and gets the move sorted. Tom Freer, of course, we have seen drop behind Andrew Gilliam, but here is Benjamin J. Smith. He's got mirrors full of Damien Johnstone, who's looking like he is a revitalised driver, moving to strength, and what you could say is that Johnstone's starting to hit that category where you could say a couple years ago Brady Myers was, just picking up good, solid results. As there's another little look from Forza El Nabi. You're not going to find it into Pouon, but maybe you might find it in the latter half of the lap. But for the moment, Damien Johnstone starting to think defensively minded now, and suddenly the 91 gets a couple tenths.
Indeed, it does. Benjamin Smith driving really well right now as Madison Down is jetting away in the lead. He took 5 tenths out of Forza El Nabi on the last lap, did Down out in the lead. So that tells you how much El Nabi is being held up behind these two. But they're still doing a sterling job of keeping it on the track and doing those competitive times. They, big headlight flash from El Nabi at Damien Johnstone coming out of Paul Frere curve. This might be a move at the chicane.
It might be. We've seen one already from Forza El Nabi. He needs a good run, and he's using all of the track to try and make sure of it. Is he going to be late on the brakes here and try and dive for it? Oh, you bet he is. Johnstone caught grass though under brakes, and that would have been a little bit scary, but position made for Forzan. He's now up into fourth, and he's running through the gauntlet here, but he's seeing where Madison Down is, pulling away just in front, and that's not what he would be expecting, especially as he's catching the race leader, Brett Loxton. Out there, dramas, as there goes around the 913 machine of Justin Wallace after contact with Rob Bowden, who I think is trying to redress that position. Wallace not going anywhere fast.
Yeah, there goes Rob Bowden. He's falling down to the back of the field, and I think he's realised by now that that is not going to happen, that redress. So let's see what happened on board with Bowden. And of course, Wallace was already missing a rear wing thanks to earlier contact. Bowden goes up the inside, and that is a very late lunge. It looks like he didn't have much hope of making the corner. That was a fair whack.
It was a very fair whack, and Rob Bowden then found himself in a very awkward position, trying to get himself continuing on forward. So there is Chris Coxhead, then in 7th position. He's just lost the place to Andrew Gilliam, who is now up into that 6th place, as that's Robin Kirk dropping places. Looks like a slowdown penalty. Jordan Ross in 23rd, now trying to get past Kobe Jones, not close enough just yet on the number 2, and that looked like it was dramas in the mid-pack there as they went on through. Was that a dramas? Oh yes it was. That's Christian Smart going for a little bit of a how you do.
Let's see what happened to him then. Looked like maybe contact or a mistake down at the Lacombe complex. And Christian Smart's already been in trouble with race control today already. He was side by side with the Split 2 winner. And we'll see how it goes into here. Just a bit later on the brakes, maybe. Oh, yeah, that looked like contact between the two of them. There was a bit of space between the cars, but at those kinds of speeds, it can be difficult to tell.
Certainly can, but Christian Smart able to get that one back going again, and we'll be searching for a little bit of easiness on this one. But here is Forzan El Nabi. He's trying to get through on Benjamin J. Smith, and he needs to do so PDQ. He's already lost himself 3 seconds to Madison Down in front, and that's 3 seconds you will always struggle to try and get back. So takes a little lift then, going through Blanchimont corner. Does he have that traditional dive? Not this time, though, but he sees what's in front, and that is the race leaders who could be getting into a bit of a battle, and that is a great run off the exit from Forzan. He might look at turn 1. And don't forget Damien Johnstone. He's definitely not forgetting this one, as you can also see Tom Freer dealing with James Scott in the background as into the pits. Then comes Kenneth Latter for his 2nd and final stop.
And through goes James Scott on Tom Freer. Meanwhile, El Nabi still pressuring the back of Benjamin Smith as we take a brief look at Corey Shepherd. He's going to try a lunge up the inside of the DPR machine of Neil Pearson. And it looks like it's going to work out for him. Brian Borg recovering from a drive-through penalty, looking to take advantage as well. And that is Jordan Ross past Kobe Jones at La Source.
It is Kobe Jones being overtaken by Jordan Ross, and he'll definitely not be too pleased about that. But Forzan, though, he's got it done on the brakes up into Lake Coombe. No real arguments about that one either. So El Nabi onto the podium once again, but look at where Madison Down is in comparison. He is now 4 seconds clear, and he is fighting Brett Loxton now for the race lead. How much of a thorn do you want to be, Mr. Loxton, in this battle for the race lead? He's still yet to come in for his 2nd stop of the day, but ultimately Madison wouldn't want too many dramas. There's a little change, as that is Vaughan, I believe, getting by Robin Kirk there. So Bradley Vaughan for Pursuit, new driver to the team, up into 24th place.
Not bad. Doing very well for himself and for Pursuit out there as the battle between Corey Shepherd and Neil Pearson continues. Of course, Shepherd carrying some very obvious damage to his car, and Pearson with a little bit of extra downforce on the rear. And, oh, Shepherd running a little bit wide through Pouon. In fact, both of them do. Very difficult to keep it between the white lines around here as Pearson gets very liberal with the curb. I think at least by the chicane, he'll have another chance at him.
He certainly will have another chance, and it looks like we're going to be seeing a few more penalties coming in on the board. The number 16 car will be taking a drive-through penalty or will be taking a trip. But here's your race leaders, Madison Down, Brett Loxton, as they head towards that final chicane once again. And on the brakes goes Brett, and there is Madison just behind. Now in 2019 at the start, you'd have forgiven things as Andrew Gilliam's going to dive down the inside. I was going to say forgiven things for thinking Brett Loxton would be a major contender. It's taken him a while to get back to the front of the field, almost 2 years, but he now finds himself leading a race for the first time in a long time. But ultimately, that is Andrew Gilliam gaining a place, and crucially, here comes James Scott on Chris Coxhead, and, well, when you're quick, you're just flying quick.
Yeah, there we go. Now Scott's got Damian Johnstone to try and get past. Only one car between him and Andrew Gilliam. El Nabi ahead of Mr. Smith, as we saw earlier on in the lap, and down with the run down the Kemmel Straight. Look at that overspeed. This is an excellent run from Madison down, and he's going to pull out to try and go for the move here. Brett Loxton led a few laps, but now it's going to be down back in front.
Yep, definitely let him have that one, did Brett Loxton. He wasn't going to make life difficult for Madison down there on differing strategies. There's no real point in fighting amongst each other for that one. Brett knows what he needs to do and knows what pace he needs to find. Now, Luke Rosella here is in a fight for 12th place. Here is Andrew Dyson, who's made both his stops once in. He's going to lunge for the inside. Rosella a little bit spooked there with that little look at the rear quarter panel. Sometimes you can play against the fears, and that was where you can really get an advantage here. And that is why Andrew Dyson's ahead, because he played with the spotter.
Exactly right. So there we go. It's actually quite interesting, the run from Lacombe into Malmedy. You know, the way it goes, the fastest line is to take a tight exit from Lacombe to open up the exit for Malmedy. But you saw what he did there was he got on the throttle a little bit earlier, and that gave him the momentum to shove it up the inside at the right-hander. Here's Dylan Rudd and Cameron Dance battling behind Corey Shepherd. Now, Cameron Dance is another one of the drivers that has had a pretty tough day so far. Started in 38th and now running in position 20. So it's a good run for Dance so far, but he would be hoping for a bit better out of this one.
Dancermania running wild at the moment, but here is Andrew Gilliam and Benjamin J. Smith we're on board with, and a bump heading towards Blochemont. That's a brave bump then from one Mr. Andrew Gilliam. He wants through. He's going to use the track extend to go and try and work it out. He'll get the inside now, and he will move himself up into 4th position, but that's being fought hard. In fact, it's way too deep from the 91, and that is going to be around the outside from Gilliam. Going to hold that one quite nicely and gain the place. Johnstone in for his final stop.
Right, and Johnstone will be incredibly safe from here. No danger of running out of fuel. So that is another position for James Scott. That is another position for Andrew Gilliam as well. And we check back in on that fight, Cameron Dance and the Premier car and the like. It looks like Dance might be in a bit of trouble here. Would he have gotten a slowdown? That's Jordan Ross making his way past.
That's just a clean-on move, and there's not much you can say about that one. So Jordan Ross picks up another one and gains another place. So they will be looking to try and gain those places again and again. Jordan Ross has just been a highlight reel of overtake on overtake on overtake, and still somehow you feel he's got 5 or 6 more in him as they go on up over above the hill as they charge up the Kemmel. But at this stage, you're starting to wonder, okay, we've been aggressive, we've got those places. Madison down at the front of the field now can think about, okay, 13 laps of saving fuel. That's all I've got to do from now to the end after pitting on lap 15, trying to work out the strategy and trying to save as much as possible. Every driver pretty much of the top 4 who are fighting for the championship deciding it's time to save as much as we can and get ourselves over to the end. Little wiggle there from Mr. Rudd as he's behind his teammate Corey Shepherd. So those two trying to work their way back through the field here in 17th and 18th. But for the time being anyway, it looks like every battle is got itself a little battle here and a little battle there. Andrew Dyson, mind you, he could be on for the top 10 at this stage. He's fighting Sean Linsell.
Yeah, right on the back of him coming into Farnier, and he's made short work of Luke Rosella as well. So Linsell with a 2-minute 23 on the last lap, 2-minute 22.7 for Dyson. He certainly got the pace under him here, and he could work out to be one of the big surprises of tonight, especially after that lap 1 incident right in the draft of Sean Linsell coming onto the run-up to Blanchimont.
Well, we'll see how this one goes as they look to charge on forward here. Dyson trying everything he can to get close enough and pick up that move as we go on through. A few issues on our end. We do apologise for that. But Dyson on the brakes. It's defended, actually, by Sean Linsell there, taking the middle of the road, which is the toughest place to try and get things working out. Why did he take the middle of the road? I don't want to be overtaken going into the pits. It's such a tough entry when you're side by side and going for an overtake.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised we haven't seen any incidents like that as Kane Hewson comes on in, because, you know, if you want to come into the pits, you can't afford to be on the outside coming into the right-hander of the chicane, because you'll have to go back across the circuit to get to pit entry. I've seen quite a few races here where some drivers have been very unhappy because there's been needless contact by side-by-side running in the chicane and one driver going into the pits. Fortunately, we haven't seen that here. Linsell's stop is complete, and he's going to make his way back out onto the circuit shortly.
He certainly is. Now, something that's very, very telling here at this moment is that Brett Loxton is not pulling or not falling back away from Madison down. That tells me that Madison has hit fuel conservation mode out here on track, and you're starting to wonder, okay, is Forzan going to be in save mode, or is he going to try and close his way back up to get the tow, get the draft, and maybe save a little bit more? The gap is 3 seconds between El Nabi and Loxton. He'll definitely want that closed down, but he also has to be careful about those behind thinking about the same. James Scott wants through, and that's a spinner. That's Dylan Rudd.
Oh no, and that's coming out of Malmedy, I believe. He's going to have to spin that thing around, but wait for the rest of the field to go by. He is off the track, and there we go. He's managed to get himself going again. No safety car that time round. So it'd be interesting to see what happened to him there. I did talk about the moves made down at that corner as trying up the inside of the Exto gaming machine. But moves up the inside into Malmedy can not work out very well, and it looks like it was just rear-end contact from Cameron Dance that sent Rudd around, and Dance tried to redress it, but I think he knew pretty soon that there was no sign Rudd was going to get going quickly.
That's just a case of sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, and that was where the issues are. James Scott wants in. James Scott wants a place. James Scott wants P5, and he's not going to get it just now because Benjamin Smith says, no, we're waiting. We're playing this game. We are waiting. And again, nothing doing through the final chicane corner, but he might get a good run here towards turn number 1 against the Race on Oz machine, but no, not just yet. He might think about the inside, or he could go for the prime place. No, it's a dive. It's definitely a dive. It's definitely an attempt. It's definitely a place.
Yeah, looks like he's got it done. Straight line the exit as we see Tom Freer jump on in. Actually, quite a few cars, including Thomas Hinz and Mr. Rosella, jumping into the box. And as this happens, I just want to highlight the pit stop times of our former leaders. Madison Down was stopped for 10.4 seconds, right? As we see Smith have another run here. James Scott, actually quite a good run. Down to Lacombe and a bit of side-by-side contact as well. So James Scott might have to wait a couple more seconds to get this done. He wants to try and keep the position, trying to shoulder Benjamin Smith out of the way, but they make contact again, and Smith slips on ahead. Well done, but James Scott's going to be unhappy with that one. The point I want to make is El Nabi was stopped for about 1.8 seconds longer than Madison Down was. Andrew Gilliam had the same pit stop time as Down, just about.
So maybe Forzan's got a bit more margin here, and even less was put in on the stop for the likes of Madison Down and Andrew Gilliam and co. This is a very interesting prospect that we're keeping our eyes on at this stage and seeing who's got enough margin to go out there and really pick it up. But Benjamin Smith is holding off James Scott, which is good news for Andrew Gilliam, who's trying to chase down a P3 in the championship because he knows the driver in 4th in the championship is just being held up by a thorn in the side, and that was very nearly a thorn in the wall.
Benjamin Smith is putting on the defensive drive of the ages. That is the widest Ford Mustang I've ever seen at Spa-Francorchamps, and Chris Coxhead wants to try and get in on this as well. Remember, we were talking about Coxhead before. In qualifying, he wasn't able to get up to the standard of Loxton, but he's just been advancing forward gradually in this race and has done very well to put him up into 7th. Yes, he still has to take his second pit stop, but this is a great place for him to be in right now.
I think Brett Loxton's decided he's just taking his now on lap 26 as in comes
There they go.
both Chris Coxhead and Benjamin J. Smith. So they both decide, right, it's time. Everyone's coming in. We'll come in. We'll let the leaders do what they need to do. We'll run our own race from here. Now, here's Glenn Postlethwaite side by side with Tom Freer almost. They go through. It's a synergy train here, 3 in a row. And I think that deserves some sort of prize somewhere. But at this stage, they've got their eyes on that 632 machine just in front, that Simrigs.com DPR car. And they are not quite in a place where they are going to make that one happen just for the time being. But who's going to come out of the pits where at the moment? Because that's where Damien Johnstone is. You'd expect that Loxton's ahead of it.
Yeah, Chris Coxhead has managed to beat Benjamin Smith out of the pits. Brett Loxton, meanwhile, has come out just ahead of Michael Taliancic on the circuit. And very close between them as Freer tries there on the DPR car and round the outside coming into Radion. You just saw it at the left of the screen. What a move!
Right, replay, please. That, I think, will go down as an iRacing top 10 hit, because how often do you make this happen? It's okay talking about Formula cars going side by side and making it happen like Alonso and Webber. This is Tom Freer getting it done whilst the car in front has draft, mind you, from Bailey Frid. This is a wonderful overtake. You see, he pinches him to the wall. He's going to take that with commitment plus to get that one done. That is sensational from Tom Freer, and that was brave to the max.
Yeah, it took a lot of trust in the DPR car as well to get that done. So now he moves his attention a little more forward, does Freer. Meanwhile, this guy right here, Damien Johnstone, trying his best to get past the same DPR machine. It's going to be a difficult job for him in this section of the circuit.
It's going to be really tough here as we got ourselves some battling going on. Brett Loxton out to the pits. He's immediately wanted to be aggressive. Bradley Vaughan is going to be the first to face his wrath, and he's going to try and dive down the inside. We cut away at just the wrong moment at that one then for the moment as we look at Tom Freer in 16th as Brett Loxton has got his move through down the inside of the campus corner and now up into 13th. His next charge will be to Tyler Blackburn. 4 seconds down the road. Freshest tyres of anybody has Brett Loxton.
Yeah, advantage Brett Loxton at the moment. As we're hearing, Thomas Hinz is setting purple sectors, so that's going to be interesting as Bailey, Frid and Glenn Postlethwaite almost making contact into Blanchimont. That was high-stakes competition right there, and it might be a move from the Synergy car if the door opens, which it does, but Posy not able to take advantage for now. Thomas Hinz, of course, making the move there on Robin Kirk, trying to anyway. Easy, boys. But Hinsey, one of the more recent cars to pit, he's still got some fresh tyres on that machine. He is fast right now.
This is higher stakes than the Oklahoma barbecue sauce competition right now, as we can see. There's a Zuva car down the inside. That's Chris Coxhead getting past Christian Smart, who's been a little bit in the walls today, and that was a comfortable move getting done. But look at this. 2 wide they go on the straight. Frid and Freer take 2 for Tom Freer. Oh, he's gone 2 for 2 at that section. Now suddenly Postlethwaite wants in and wants to try and get himself involved in this little scrap. But where are you going to look? Here comes the DPR car once again trying to search. Reese Keane wants in, but look at Bossing. He's going to go to the inside. Bailey Frid, welcome to the freight train. Synergy drivers are moving through left, right and centre.
There we go. Oh, can he hold it? Oh, they come together on the turnover point, and it looks like Postlethwaite just sneaking ahead of Bailey Frid as they came through Malmedy, but contact on the exit, and that's Frid off into the gravel trap. 2 positions lost. Hinsey now sees the opportunity and gets past Reese Keane at Brazil.
That's 2 in 1 corner then for him, but he's not got it sorted. Jackie Hicks, he'll go the long way around to sort this one out, and he's got power on the exit. Thomas Hinz picks up the position. Now Frid is going to try and get on through here on Reese Keane once more. Down on the inside, and at Pooh on the double apex left. It's so tough to hold around the outside, but he's trying it. He's out of road.
There we go. That's Bailey Frid through, but Reese Keane's going to have another go at Defanier, and look at Chris Coxhead on the inside of Robin Kirk. Just bumped him out of the way into Defanier, and they're 2x2 through the corner. Look at Coxhead. Power down round the outside. He's got it done on Kirk.
That's great work, but we have to stop everything because Brenton Hobson's in 6th.
Oh my goodness. It's happened. Mr. Hobson, the meme is still alive.
Some things change, some things stay the same. Brenton Hobson's in 6th place right now. He's got a gap over Neil Pearson. What a run he's having in 7th. Jordan Ross 8th and Kobe Jones in 9th position. So Neil Pearson right now having a really strong run here in the DPR car.
Yeah, and just another one of those DPR drivers that seems to pop up towards the end of these races. In terms of the top 10, they've got 2 cars in the top 10 have DPR at the moment. And there's the gap between El Nabi and Gilliam, just under 3 seconds, but it's looking like more and more of a difficult job for Gilliam to make up that gap. 2:21.605 for Forza and El Nabi, 2:21.504 for Gilliam, so he is gaining, but not by enough.
Not by enough is the key, and remember, they're all going to be quite conspicuous on their fuel as Jordan Ross close to Neil Pearson going into the Lake Coombe, but not quite enough this stage as the Synergy Sim Racing driver, the leading the second place Synergy Sim Racing driver is trying to get closer towards his teammate. On the brakes he goes, and nope, he's not going to be there just yet, but talk about how quickly this race has gone. We're only down to 7 to go next time we cross the line.
Yeah, and it has seemed to have gone a little bit quicker than we expected, despite the length of this circuit. And I'm sure the drivers will be really starting to feel it now. There's an awful lot of throttle control required around this circuit. It means that your right ankle's probably going to ache for a bit after you're done with this. But Jordan Ross still trying on Neil Pearson. The move opportunity has not opened up just yet. But if he can nail the exit of Fania, he might be able to slip up the inside of Stavilo. But once again, it looks like Pearson just keeping the pace up, and Jordan Ross doesn't want to go for a silly move.
No, he doesn't. He knows what's at stake. He's in 8th position right now, and even drivers who are in 8th position or 18th or 38th, they've still got championship points to think of, and finishing races gets you points, and that's quite crucial, especially when you consider, say, 9th place in the championship, Kurt Stenberg only gets himself points for Super Split 2. So there are a lot of points, and look at the commitment from Jordan Ross. He was railing it sideways through that section, trying to get some sort of advantage, but Neil Pearson says, I don't care about your advantage, I'm just going to keep it on the road, keep it in the middle of the road, and not really worry too much about you behind. So they stay as is for the time being. The top 5 all pretty spread out though at the moment. Looks maybe on the brakes into turn number 1 again. Not quite there. That's someone going straight on there as Tom Freer's going to find out that it's a slowdown penalty for Bradley Vaughan.
Yes, indeed, and he's going to slip on by coming into La Source, both of them on the brakes at roughly the same time, but Freer through easily into the first turn, and I think he'll have much preferred that to passing at Eau Rouge. Meanwhile, Cameron Dance comes in. He has got a drive-through penalty as well, or no, he's already served that, so he's actually coming in for another stop. There's side-by-side. Jordan Ross might get this done now.
He might, he does, and you would have to say Neil Pearson lifting out of it here as Tyler Blackburn and co. Look at this though, further down. This is a big battle as things go on. Oh, the DPR car side by side. Benjamin Smith into the back, hard into the wall goes one of the DPR cars. It's Captain Kirk who finds himself in troubles. Is he able to get it back going again, or are we seeing a late safety car which could get things going? He's got it going.
Yes, he has. Oh, thank goodness for that. But missing his bonnet and quite a bit of damage. It's an incredibly hard hit up at the wall up there, and we're going to have to dissect that from pretty much La Source. I mean, they went side by side. It looks like Robin Kirk suffered a bit of understeer up the hill. He lost the speed, and Benjamin J. Smith just could not react in time.
It's that simple, and it was a little bit awkward between them, but you knew how it was. They were fighting almost too wide going through. Now, this is Benjamin Smith. He sees them going side by side, but the moment he checks up, you can see he's laterally sliding across the circuit, so he's got no drive off the exit. Smith, by the time he's reacting and understands that, because you're going so quick through that section, you expect the car to go. It doesn't go, and he can't react in time. So Robin Kirk takes a trip to the wall, and ultimately Benjamin J. Smith, I think, didn't have that much to work with. Meanwhile, we talk about drivers who are on a charge. Look at Brett Loxton in 10th place, mind you. He's having a really good charge back through the field, and he's found his teammate in Kobe Jones.
Has indeed. Of course, Loxton started the race in 8th, and Jones is going to let him have it at 100% down into the bus stop chicane. And Loxton then up into 9th place. There's only one more position to go until he is up to where he started. The car that currently holds that position is Neil Pearson in 8th.
But he's got to go a second a lap quicker to find that one, though, and that's going to be the tough challenge as they all start to conglomerate around the meme of Brenton Hobson in 6th position right now in this race. So how is this one going to play out then in the latter stages of this race? Still have those questions about the fuel, but the fact that everyone's running around on their own at the moment. Madison Down, your race leader here by 6 seconds at the front. You would probably say at this stage here, Reese, that they feel confident that they're fine on the fuel.
Yeah, I'd agree too, because, you know, Madison is just flat out running quicker times than El Nabi, about 0.2 of a second quicker every lap. In fact, on the last lap, he was 0.6 faster than El Nabi, so I think Down's in no trouble of running out now. We look at Thomas Hinz riding on board and chasing down Glenn Postlethwaite. Both of these drivers have had quite a few adventures today, but you see the way Hinz closes up on Posy. He is on fire right now. This is amazing.
He certainly is, as Tom Freer has also gone through on Michael Taliancic then for 12th place. But there's the puff of smoke on the brakes. He's trying to find a way through. Just get yourself a little close for comfort. Then Holden versus Mustang as they go down the hill in through Jackie Hickson towards Pouon in the middle part of the lap. It's a case where Thomas Hinz is looking like he is going to be greedy and take as many places as he can.
Well, he's going to sit behind through Pouon for now, but he's going to take advantage of those slightly fresher tyres of his, keep up the pace. Brief look up the inside into Fagnier, but moves over to the driver's left, and you can just see like the trajectory of the two cars. Hinsey just has a front end a bit more willing to work with him. Glenn Postlethwaite, it just seems like that front end does not want to do anything.
No, and this is the key as well. Glenn Postlethwaite started this race in 5th position on the grid and has gone backwards over the course of this event, and will feel that this was a missed opportunity after what was a very, very good qualifying, and there will be other opportunities presenting himself to it, but he gets himself a little squirrely through the corner. Thomas Hinz is in that Hinz mode engaged with a Stonewall face. There's some side-by-side in front, as that is Bradley Vaughan and Damien Johnstone going at it for position. It looks like Vaughan has just held on to the place for the time being, but for how much longer we don't know, because there's going to be some side-by-side. There's going to be some crossing of the beams as they looked for the inside at turn 1, and Damien Johnstone, well, thank you very much. Position is just mine as he chops the nose off.
Yeah, not without a bit of contact either. It looked like Johnstone just suffered a bit of understeer there as there was the dip at the apex of La Source. We'll see if Bradley Vaughan can get him back here on the Kemmel Straight, but it all depends on the run out of Radion, and Johnstone taking a bit more curb and a bit more of a confident exit. Looks like he might just have it as we focus again on this fight with, oh my goodness, Bailey Frid and Christian Smart just went side by side through the turn, and the guys that we're just watching, Luke Rosella and Kenneth Latta, are going to come right up on them here. It's going to probably be 4 cars into 1 corner, 3 wide.
Uh-oh. Which way do you want to go? Which way do you want to work it here? It's all about pick a lane. Fred on the brakes here, trying to fight with Smart. And he's got that one. Smart's got to be cautious, though, because that's going to be Latta wanting in. And now you've got yourself a 7-8 car train. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Smart and Latta. That won't be a sight for good eyes there as they go through. But Fred's left the door open here, and Smart nearly finding a way through. And there in the background, they're being freight trained off of the back, is the Team Hyperdrive car of Kane Houston.
Indeed, he's right to the back of the train now behind Corey Shepherd, and Latta's gotten a better run out of Jackie X. He's not going to be able to get by Smart at Pouon, though. Got to think about Luke Rosella as well. He's right behind these guys and looking to capitalize. There goes Latta trying up the inside at the second part of Pouon, but has to back out of it. Smart with the better throttle application. He's going to defend into Fagnier. Oh, the 2 Exto Gaming cars don't quite know what to do. Can Latta draw alongside into Fagnier? Maybe. He's been given the room there by Christian Smart, but it's just not happening. Oh, look at Shepherd.
Oh, Shepard started to dive now as well. He's looking at the inside. He gets a DPR car out of the way. He now gets Rosella out of the way on the exit. And now Rosella's got to be careful. He's not going to be caught in the freight train battles right now. This is what supercars and Australian touring cars are all about. Shepard then gets himself into 24th place. And this is where you start to see it here. The 632 once in as they go through Blanchemont. Small lifts on a lot of them. A lot of fanning out as they go on through. Which way do you want to go, Kenny? Down the inside. And I think Christian Smart is not going to get this one up. Oh, dear me. That's not ideal at all. And somehow he misses everyone as Christian.
How did that happen? That was very, very fortunate there for Christian that he didn't end up collecting those other drivers. But of course, very unfortunate that spin happened. As there we go, the meme is over. Boo! Brenton Hobson back into 7th, but Jordan Ross will be very happy with that 6th place, and it's altogether a good result for Synergy.
It's not over yet. He could still spin it in the last 4 laps, and we could still have our meme, and of course we still could have drivers running out of fuel late on in this one if they haven't been economical enough with the fuel numbers. So we'll keep an eye out on those as they head towards the end of this race. There is Chris Coxhead, and there is Glenn Postlethwaite, and in the middle of that is Thomas Hinds, who is stuck.
Yeah, it looks like Hindsey's forward momentum has gone a bit. Oh no, Bailey Frid's gone off at Lacombe, and it looks like he's right in the battle with the 2 Exto Gaming cars now, side by side with Kenneth Ladder, as Sean Linsell went ahead, trying to go defensive as Bailey Frid, and Corey Shepard just can't find a way through. And that was a case of Frid overshooting the Lacombe corner.
Yeah, oh, bit of a wiggle on the exit as well. It means he can't fight the outside, and he's behind both Exto Gaming cars pretty much now in 22nd position. This is a big fight down near the mid to late pack that we've got going on right now, as Hindsey, again, searching for moves, searching for ways which he can find himself a way through. 3 laps to go for your race leader, Madison Down, mind you, but Thomas Hinds in the R2 car is not quite in a position to find the move that gets it all done.
Yeah, I think he's just hoping for the perfect draft down the straights. He's got to be very careful because his teammate of Loxton is right behind him now, and it's a proper 3-car battle for that 16th place. They have got Bradley Vaughan up there in 15th just ahead, so that's one possibility for Hindsey, but it's not going to be a move for him, or is it? Down at the bus stop chicane, he has one heck of a look there at Posy, but ultimately doesn't get it done, and trying that straight line exit, as Chris Cox said, to try and get by Thomas Hinds. Hindsey has some wheel spin on the exit, and it's going to be side by side between them to turn 1.
Work it out between yourself, boys. Your teammates, mind you. Coxhead trying to go around the outside. Oh, he locks up and has to double take it through. So he decides he's going to have to back out at that stage and realise it's not going to be what he wants of it with 3 laps to go. Also with 3 laps to go, Loxton started to close the gap down to Neil Pearson. That gap coming down just a little bit. It's now 2.7 seconds. He needs to chase down at a second a lap to get to the simrigs.com DPR car. But let's go back to that battle that we were just focusing on, because this one, side by side, here comes Postlethwaite trying to get through on Vaughan, and he has got the move done. Taliancic behind Johnstone now, and ultimately Hindsey still holds on to his place, so Damien Johnstone gets by Michael Taliancic.
Yeah, good. Another position there for the Synergy machine, and it looks like these 4 guys are broken into 2 groups there, with Glenn Postlethwaite making the move on Vaughan. Have a look at Bailey Frid trying around the outside of Lacombe on Corey Shepard, and they're going to remain side by side. But have a look at Kane Hewson behind them. He wants to take advantage as well. And there is Benjamin J. Smith letting, or just about letting, Rob Bowden go. Left the door open on at the outside. My apologies. It is Andrew Mogridge in that race on Oz Machine.
It is, and the 009 will be searching for every little battle, but now you can see the 100 under pressure here. Hindsey's going to look at Fania, trying to have a little look, but he's not going to be there. He's not going to find it, but he's got to be so patient in the final stages of this race. You don't want to throw it away with a late penalty from the stewards now. You know that much, so you've got to be pretty much alert to Bradley Vaughan and where he's placing the car. He's been going backwards in the latter stages of this race, and he knows it better than anybody else. Just got to stay calm. Just got to pick up the 1 place here and the 1 place there.
One place here, one place there is the way to go right at the end. Bradley Vaughan, meanwhile, under pressure from Hinsey, coming through Blanchimont and down to the bus stop chicane. This might go for it down here for Thomas Hinds. Brett Loxton moving to the outside. Oh, the teammates almost on the verge of making contact in the braking zone. Coxhead, my apologies. Once again, it wouldn't be a sim speed broadcast without a Reese Gardner mess up, but Thomas Hinds has got the inside line now for La Source.
He certainly does, and he's angling for it. He's going to have to be late on the brakes here, and he's got that pretty nice. But, of course, you can hold around the outside, and Cogshead's going to want in on this one as well in the 208 Zuva car. But good run there from one mister. That is going to be Vaughan, who's got this one just about then as they go through. Up the hill is going to have to be the next attempt to try and make this one happen. No. Ultimately, that looked like it was a little bit too aggressive there from one Mr. Vaughan. So this is the chance. There's the brakes. There's the slowdown. Nope. Goodbye and good night. Mwah.
That's a big shame there for Vaughan, running incredibly well up to that point. Here's Kobe Jones and Tyler Blackburn for the last position in the top 10. And Tyler Blackburn has had one heck of a run here, started in 25th, and Jones starting back in 26th. So both of these guys will have something to be really proud of when they cross the line.
But who's going to be ahead of who? Race on Oz would absolutely love a top 10, and if Kobe Jones can hold on to it, it's his second consecutive top 10 finish in the series. So that's going to be something worth keeping in mind here as they will be going towards the end of this race. Mind you, at exactly the same time, the last lap will be starting for Madison Down in the not-too-distant future, who leads this event outright, the championship leader, and this is where you get to the mark of being a champion. You have one lap to go, and you've got to work it out. How are you going to hold on to positions? It's looking close behind between Fulton and Arby and Andrew Gilliam. That gap down to 1.8 seconds between them, 2 seconds there or thereabouts. It's too little too late unless there's some fuel dramas in the final laps that we have going on. Back to Kobe Jones, though, who's trying to hold off the charge of Tyler Blackburn, and he will fight this one with everything that he has got as he tries to play on the brakes and go through the rights. And there's dramas. That's Reece Keane, who's found himself in a whole world of hurt. They won't call a safety car on the last lap for it, so he'll be wheeled behind the fence after that sort of moment. But El Nabi here in second position, 8 seconds back. You feel like he is starting to run into troubles. Now, that's a big lift from Andrew Gilliam as he goes on through. Look how much he's lifted. He's lifted about 2 seconds. Slowdown penalty potentially there going through. So maybe there's some dramas for third place as James Scott might find out that he's got a chance of picking up a podium. Why not? As he goes down the hill towards Bruchel's corner. This is all of a sudden a case of looking at the gauge, looking at mistakes, looking at every which way to hopefully find out that you've still got something left to get yourself home and dry and over the start-finish line. But everything still looking like it is up in the air slightly. Postlethwaite through on Taliancic for 14th position. He's going the long way round to get that one to happen here as they rise up the hill, and that one very nicely done and made the move. It's so close between Jones and Blackburn as well, just 0.4 of a second looking for the inside, but having none of it at the moment is Kobe Jones. He knew how to defend Bruchel's. He's got to defend the next corner as well. They're pretty much as they were last lap they went through. Jones likes the middle sector around this place, but let's focus on race leader here, because Madison Down is going to be making that drive to Blanchimont corner. He's going to be making that drive for the final chicane, and Madison knew what he needed to do today. It had to be a case of giving yourself as much of a chance when you go to Elkhart Lake. This will be win number 6 of the season for a driver who will be steeped in legacy and folklore. Madison Down will take Spa-Francorchamps, and not only that, he puts himself firmly in the driver's seat for this championship push. El Nabi will be coming to the line then for second position after some wonderful driving, but just not enough. And Andrew Gilliam will hold on to that third position. But let's go back to 10th place as Andrew Dyson is in 5th position over the line, trying to get himself through, because Kobe Jones, I think, is just going to be able to hold on to this position here compared to Tyler Blackburn. It will be Jordan Ross in 6th and Brenton Hobson 7th. There is 8th and 9th. Brett Loxton's going to be close. Well, there's the defensive line in the final section for Kobe Jones. He will be the last driver inside the top 10, and he will be very, very happy about that one and stoked with the way that he has driven that one. So he'll be quite pleased with it as we see the final few battles head their way over towards the end race. That is why Madison Down is champions material, because when everybody's expecting a very, very nervy and trepidatious race, he just puts it on ice and says, no, this is my form book and you will run to my spec.
Yeah, exactly right. As we see, Christian Smart has run out of fuel. He's going to try and shortcut the final chicane as much as he can here. Cannot slow down. So, yeah, that's real unfortunate for him. Just lets the Synergy car go before the line, but that's going to be a coasting for Christian Smart. Madison Down, what more can you say about him? I mean, qualified on pole, led the race, timed the pit stop perfectly, went for that second one under the safety car, and managed the fuel really well. I mean, I cannot believe the form that this guy has.
He's done so well, and we'll get official classified results for you up on screen right now, coming out of Spa-Francorchamps. There's just one round to go after this, but Madison Down has picked it up where he needed to after a race that did not work out for him. When it came to Belle Isle, his 36 laps worth of racing action took him a full 1 hour, 29 minutes and 28 seconds. He wins by 8.6 over Forza Elnavi, with Andrew Gilliam coming home in 3rd position for pursuit. Altus get a car in 4th position, with James Scott 4 in 4th place, with Andrew Dyson making it 5 different cars in 5, and it's 6 in 6, with Jordan Ross taking the meme away from Brenton Hobson, who finishes off in 7th place. Neil Pearson will take 8th position and was able to hold off Brett Loxton's late charge towards the line as he led a few laps after the safety car did Brett, as Kobe Jones would round out the top 10.
And 6/10 behind him, Tyler Blackburn, another fantastic performance, 25th to 11th for him. Tom Freer, unfortunately, he was in contention for a top 10, but slipped back into 12th. Damian Johnstone finishes lucky 13th, sorry. Glenn Postlethwaite, one of the more unfortunate drivers here, a top 5 qualifying, but he has to settle for 14th. The car just wasn't with him. Michael Taliancic advancing to 15th place, with Thomas Hinz getting the next position. Benjamin Smith in 17th, with Coxhead, Vaughan and Linsell rounding out the 20.
Moving on to page 3, Kenneth Latter takes the blackjack position in 21st, with Corey Shepherd in 22nd. Team Hyperdrive representative there, Kane Hewson, will get 23rd, with Luke Rosella on debut. 24th place is no slouch. Rob Bowden in 25th, with Andrew Mogridge there, 26th for Race on Oz. Damon Mulqueen, haven't talked much about him at all there in the Synergy team. He's there in 27th, with Cameron Dance 28th, pitting late. Christian Smart found himself left, right and centre all over the circuit. 29th is his result, with Bailey Frid making 30.
Yeah, and it would have been a bit better for Bailey Frid, but he had an incident on his penultimate lap, which we'll look at after these results. Stephen Varga finishing in 31st, with Robin Kirk having a not less than stellar race to finish in 32nd. So did Ben Christensen. He was one of the biggest movers in the field at one point, but involving in an incident that put him way back. Brian Borg had to serve a drive-through penalty. He finishes 34th. Reese Keane, the first car to finish a lap down. Justin Wallace, 4 laps down. And now we get into Retirement Central. Dylan Rudd, Philip Worley, Damon Stockton and Jacob Knight rounding out the 40 there, all retiring, and the first car out was the guy who qualified in 4th, Ethan Warren.
Give some credit to Michael Korolev as well for not making the start either, so that is going to be pretty much that in terms of racing. But before we do look at where we're going to next, we're going to get ourselves some driver interviews, ladies and gentlemen. And first and foremost, well, you have to talk about the driver who won that event outright, Madison Down. Now, Madison, that will go down as a race which, on paper, looking at the race for you, it looked pretty plain sailing from about lap 23 onwards when Brett Loxton decided to come down in and make a stop. But for you, in terms of what that result means, does that go down as one of your most underrated drives and performances?
Yeah, it was probably a little bit more difficult from the car than what it looked, but we had awesome pace. I wasn't expecting to have the pace in that one that we did, so the car was unbelievable. The VRS car just in qualifying was a rocket ship, and thankfully in the race we had that pace and we carried it through. So yeah, bloody exciting after that though, with the safety car being called just before critical lap to get home, so had to do a lot of managing of fuel, and big thanks to everyone at TTR. They were helping me out. Andrew Fraser, Kurt Stenberg, Jake Maloney, Richard Hempstead were all smashing the calculators trying to work out what I needed to do. So yeah, big thanks to those guys.
A lot of work being done then in terms of the race, but what hasn't really been talked about is just how dominant you were in qualifying. The moment it seemed like Forzan or James were getting close to you in terms of a qualifying push, there was an extra 10th, 2 tenths, 3 tenths in the back pocket, which you just put out on the table as almost enticing. Well, you're setting the bar. Well, how high can I go?
Yeah, it was one of those ones. I hadn't actually done a lot of qualifying testing, so it was almost a little bit of a surprise to me as well that the speed was as good as it was relative to the field. So Spa traditionally has been a really strong track for me, although we haven't really been here a lot in the supercar over the last probably 5 years or so. This track was always a really strong track, and I tend to suit these fast and flying places. So in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have been as surprised, but it was certainly a good feeling to get pole by about 3.5 tenths or so, that's for sure.
Let's talk next time out. Let's talk the season finale at Road America. We've seen the season finale race be pretty much plain sailing for the champion over the last couple of years. Of course, that champion not here. But for you, Madison, in terms of now looking to try and convert, you've had so many great consistent finishes over the course of this season, which has got you to this position. Now, how do you feel about your chances going into the final round of the season?
I think the chance is good. Road America's always been a strong track for me to finish on. Obviously, I've had some championships there go my way, others not. But, you know, this year's had its own challenges. Obviously, the field has changed a little bit with a few of those drivers that were previously there, not here. But we've also had an equal amount of drivers coming up through the ranks as well, which has been really good to see. But obviously, you can't drop the last round. So it's not over till it's over. We know how close it can be there. And just because it's been plain sailing the last 6 months and we've had the success we've had, that means nothing in a couple of weeks' time at Road America. So just need to prepare, focus on having a fast car. If you got a fast car, that's how you win races, that's how you win championships. So that's what we'll be focusing on.
Well, before we let you go, Madison, after a big race victory, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
As always, Virtual Racing School for their support of not only myself and TTR, but also the series as well. It's great having those guys involved, as well as BNT Model Cars have come on this year, and their support's been awesome. And a big thanks tonight to everyone. There wasn't many TTR cars on track tonight, but there was a lot of people behind the scenes helping to make that win happen. So big thanks to everyone that helped me through to get that win.
Madison Down then picks up the race victory overall and moves one step closer to a championship push. Second position would go to Forzan El Nabi. He stood by with Reese.
He certainly is. Welcome back once again, Forzan. Second place for you from a third place start. And this was a round where you nearly really needed to get a result like that on the board.
Yeah, I think it was pretty uneventful race, to be honest. But credit to Madison. He really drove well out there tonight. He was clearly the fastest car, so yeah, congrats to him. Yeah, I think P2 for us was the best we were going to get today, and yeah, that's what we got, which is not too bad.
Let's just talk about the safety car briefly in the middle of the race. Of course, you, Madison, Andrew Gilliam, James Scott had all recently taken your first pit stop, but then you all had to dive in under those safety car conditions to get your second stop out of the way. So I feel like it might have been a bit marginal for you guys on fuel at the time, but how was it for you?
Yeah, I kind of like just follow the leader sort of thing. So if Madison was going to go in, I was going to go in as well. And then just let the fuel sort out itself. I knew it was going to be close, but I didn't realize it it'll be that close because I did cough across the line. But yeah, it is what it is. I think it was vital just to mirror what the leader did, just in case, because you don't want to just have opposite strategies and then end up nowhere. So yeah, a bit of damage limitation today, but yeah, still pretty happy with P2.
Yeah, it seemed like you had some problems with trying to get past other cars as well once the safety car went in, and partially that was what allowed Madison to get away to the extent he did.
Yeah, you don't want to really cause an incident because then you'll get a penalty and then you get a points penalty and then that really hinders you. Even if you touch a car around here with how the incident limit is, you do risk getting over 15 incidents, which we didn't, so that's a good thing. But yeah, that was always mindful just not to get involved in any incidents. Season's been pretty good so far in terms of incident wise, so yeah, just plan to keep it that way.
Well, we'll see how you go at Road America. How are you feeling? Optimistic?
Yeah, it's an awesome track. We go there often as well, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been a great season and I've really enjoyed racing, so whatever happens, and yeah, we'll just go to Road America and see what happens.
I think we can all agree that it's been a very good season for you, Forzan. Before we let you go, who gets it done for you?
Yeah, just all the boys at United, our sponsors, Valvoline, Tuesday Finance, Western Mazda, and Parramatta Susie Ute. And just big thanks to all the boys at United as well for the support throughout the season.
Forzan El Nabi, their second place here tonight at Spa. And we've got one more driver interview to go, Sperry. That's third place, Andrew Gilliam.
Just before we go over to Andrew Gilliam, it's just worth reminding for those who do realise how difficult it is around here to keep under 15 incidents. Only 9 drivers, and that includes those who were racing all distances or only went so far, were able to keep under 15 incident points. Andrew, we're going to bring you into the conversation here, buddy. Third place, and of course, those incident points are so easy to pick up around here.
Insane, like, you don't even, most of my incident points weren't even like cutting the track on purpose. You know, a good portion of them were just, you know, the car getting a little looser than you expect, and boom, you're like just on that edge of off track, and it's just so easy to pick up, especially when it's so rewarding as well, like maximizing the track. So it's quite a fine balance. But I asked my engineer before the race, like, how many penalty points do I have for this season? He's like, you don't have any. I'm like, sweet, we'll probably have some at the end of this one.
Well, he's definitely had points to play with here today, but what's crucial for you is just how important this season has been. It was a slower start to the season, but what you had to play with in terms of this championship push so far, you do have an outside shot of the championship, albeit you're out in the cold so far that we need binoculars to see you. You still have a shot of that championship.
Yeah, there's any chance that I could Bradbury this one if Forzan and Madison take each other out, but given their quality of driving, like, I find that pretty unlikely. So I've just got to, you know, set my focus on making sure I finish close to James Scott, and I'll be able to seal the deal on third. And
in terms of sealing the deal for you, moving on into the future, Pursuit seemingly has a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies. A couple new drivers joining the team as well over the course of the last couple of weeks as well. How's the vision at Pursuit going, and how is preparations looking towards 2021?
We got a couple young guns in Bailey and Bradley, so they both debuted, and they both made top split, one with second split win. So yeah, it was quite cool to see how far they've come just in, you know, a week with the team. So I think yeah, we're just gonna obviously just keep the same momentum we've always had. You know, we've always been strong week in, week out, and we're only getting stronger. So yeah, we're getting more consistently in the top 20 of the top split with our pace, and yeah, I think we're just going to keep this momentum going into 2021.
Well, before we let you go, Andrew, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank for third place?
Yeah, big shout out to Dave Kinman. He was my engineer, and he's on New Zealand time, so it's pretty late for him, so it's a big commitment, so I thank him very much. And big shout out to our sponsors, Track Racer,
MXTV and 6 Gear Imagery for all their support. And yeah, just big thanks to the team. You know, it's 3 days of pre-qualifying. It's big commitment. So yeah, good work from the team to get us into this position.
Well, there we have it. Andrew Gillian then comes home with 3rd place in the book. But we're not quite done. We're just going to take you back then to the final lap's worth of racing action, ladies and gentlemen. We did manage to catch something out of the corners of our eyes, so to speak. And Reese, now, this is an incident which I think you have a lot more of a perspective of that you were looking at during the driver interviews.
Yes, indeed. I also spied it while you were calling the last lap. Bailey Frid and Kane Hewson, they were side by side through a Rouge and Radillon and almost making contact there. Hewson just slipping on ahead there of Frid, but this is the incident that I wanted to talk about. Bailey Frid was on for really good finish already, but trying to go for the inside here at Lacombe. Tried his best and actually got past Hewson, but watch what happens. Bailey Frid overshoots, Hewson gets alongside, and they make a bit of side-by-side contact right there, and Frid is tipped into a slide, goes head-on into the wall. So that is why Bailey Frid ultimately finished in 30th position.
And that's one of the things as well. That was really a nothing bit of contact. You see there the likes of Kane Hewson. He'd have felt he left just enough room for a small little tap here and there, and that wouldn't have done too much. But just the way that it snapped there on Bailey Frid late on in that one, it's just a shame to see him drop down the order after an incident like that. But we are not going to be too far away, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to your V8SCOPS 2020 season. The finale is at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America, as it traditionally is. Madison Down, Fortin El Nabi, Andrew Gilliam, 3 now left to fight for the title, and the only place you can catch this is with us and SimSpeed TV. A massive thanks, though, has to go to everyone who's been getting it done for us, to Motum Simulations who have been on the replays, the series run by Oceanic Sim Racing, Too Easy Finance who sponsored the 250 today here, this Driver's Choice event at Spa-Francorchamps, and of course the title sponsor, the Virtual Racing School, from Jay Kennedy, who's been behind the cameras, from one Mr. Southpaw Racer alongside me and myself, Jake Sperry. Madison Down, 145 points to play with heading to Wisconsin. Has he got what he takes to get himself up at the top? Or is it a Trans-Tasman mirage that we have been seeing for so very long? The only place you can catch it is right here, right now, here with us at SimSpeed. And we will see you for the final round of the championship when it comes to Road America.